Good evening. The Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Board of Trustees are now convened in a regular board meeting on Thursday, January 13th, 2022, in the boardroom of the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Instructional Support Center located at 10300 Jones Road, Houston, Texas at 6 p.m. I want to welcome the members of our audience and our television viewers to this meeting of the Board of Trustees. And off script, I love a full house. As the Cypress-Fairbanks Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and to hear the matters discussed. Audience members may not participate in the meeting outside the designated agenda items for citizen participation or public comment. Disruption of the meeting by any person, including the audience, is inappropriate and will be addressed by the board president or the board's counsel as the meeting parliamentarian. Continued or repeated disruption of any board meeting by words or actions may result in removal or loss of the privilege to this meeting. Off script. Tonight, I suspect passion and rhetoric will not be in short supply. That's okay. I do remind all of our patrons, please follow the rules. The rules are meant to be protective for all concerned and all present. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to items on tonight's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by sections 551.071 through 551.084 of the Texas Government Code. These proceedings are airing live on Comcast Channel 16 and the district website. They will also be available as video on demand on the district website following tonight's meeting. For the video to adequately reflect the proceedings, I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones, including mine, are turned off or in silent mode. We want to thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and for your interest in the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. I would also like to take this opportunity to recognize our Community Leadership Committee members who are in attendance this evening. And when I call your names, please stand for your recognition. Tanya Yegi, Tara Lamb, Tana Lamb, Ryan Irving, Francis Romero, Leslie Martone, Nancy Frankel, and Stacy Anderson. As always, we will open with an invocation, followed by the pledge. The invocation for tonight's board meeting will be given by Nathan Walker, a bivocational youth pastor at Crossbridge Christian Church. Crossbridge Christian Church adopted Owens Elementary School, we thank you, where they do an awesome job of supporting staff and students. Nathan is a loving husband, father, and grandfather. We appreciate your ongoing commitment to our district. And Nathan, we thank you for being here tonight. Before you give us your invocation, sir, I would like to introduce our Air Force Jrotc cadets who will be presenting the colors this evening. Our cadets are from Cypress Falls High School, and they are Cadet Arlene Flores Garcia on U.S. Rifle, Cadet Itzel Hernandez carrying the American flag, Cadet Natalia Velorio on Texas Rifle, and Cadet Victoria Ortega carrying the Texas flag. Our cadets this evening are under the direction of Chief Master Sergeant Reginald Morrell, United States Air Force retired and senior aerospace science instructor. And now, sir, if you would please give us the invocation, and everybody please stand.
Dear Heavenly Father, I come here tonight on behalf of the Cyfair ISD School Board, asking you for your guidance tonight, for your wisdom, and for your support during this meeting. Guide this meeting in engaging in meaningful discussions, allowing all to grow closer in unity and nurture bonds of community. May this place be filled with your grace and your mercy, Lord God, as decisions are made that might affect students, staff, faculty, alumni, and friends of the Cyfair ISD. And continue to remind us all that everything done and discussed here tonight and all that is accomplished is in a pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of all humanity. We ask all these things in your Son's precious name. Amen.
Forward. March. Color turn. March. Color guard. Halt. Reset. Colors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Colors. Colors turn. March. Forward. March.
Get your flags.
Please be seated. Board member Scott Henry will read the district's vision and mission statement for the benefit of the audience.
The district shall maximize every student's potential through rigorous and relevant learning experiences, preparing students to be 21st century global leaders. The district's vision is formed from the acronym LEAD: to learn, empower, achieve, dream. LEAD.
Thank you, sir. We have certain dignitaries in the audience, and I may not have everybody's name. Judge Hidalgo, are you with us? I know you're outside. Thank you. While we're waiting for Judge Hidalgo to come in and we'll recognize her, we do have former board members who gave years of service with us. If you would, please stand so you can be recognized. George Edwards. Kevin Hoffman. Kevin holds the distinction of having served on two separate boards, 2 full terms on HISD, 1 full term here. When he was here, he was part of the honor board for the state of Texas, being recognized as the outstanding school board in the state. Christine Hartley. She too was part of the honor board, and John Ogletree. And John was also part of the honor board. Fred Ziag. And I apologize, I didn't see you on the way in. Good to see you again, sir. Has Judge Hidalgo joined us? Not yet. Very good. We will now proceed with the recognitions portion of the agenda. In honor of Texas School Board Recognition Month, the superintendent will recognize the Cypress-Fairbanks ISD Board of Trustees for their dedication, leadership, and continuing service to the children of the district. Presenter, Dr. Mark Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President, audience, trustees. Good to see everyone here this evening. Before I do that, Mr. Jackson didn't have this information, but I know we have 3 state representatives with us. So do you mind standing up and just identifying yourself so we can acknowledge you? Okay, all right, they're all outside. All right, I tried. Every January, the Texas Association of School Boards honors school boards, volunteers that serve in their respective school districts, and Cyfair always does it up right. You can't see all of the things up here, but our campuses and our departments make sure that our volunteers here on the dais are surrounded by flowers and sweets, and books are dedicated in their name to the library, and certificates. So certainly appreciate all of these folks over here who helped contribute and make this a special evening for our trustees. Many of you may or may not know, so I'm going to tell you, trustees are not paid. It is a volunteer position. They receive zero remuneration. So the time that they are giving is volunteer time, and as you know, it's not always easy to serve on a board of trustees, but we certainly appreciate our 7 trustees here that are willing to serve in this capacity, and like many of them that have already been honored, we thank you also for your service. So, Mr. Jackson, I honor you, and I would ask the audience here to honor our board here with a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much. It is a pleasure and an honor to serve the students, the parents, the taxpayers, all of the patrons of our wonderful district. And we really do have a good district. The superintendent will now make remarks and announcements, including the honors and achievements earned by staff and students in recent weeks.
Thank you, Mr. President, once again. And you may not know this because we don't always publicize it enough, but the best wrestling in the country is usually thought of to be in the Midwest, in Iowa and Oklahoma and Nebraska, those states through there. But did you know that Cyfair ISD hosts the largest high school wrestling tournament in the country? This year, we had over 70 programs at our event this past weekend. It was the 19th annual CFISD Invitational Tournament, January 7th and 8th at the Berry Center. The Berry Center is also the place where the UIL State Meet is held. So once again, that facility comes in great use to bringing in outside visitors to our community. So it was a great event. We had people not just from Texas, but from other states here, and I predict, and for some of y'all that are from the Midwest, you might poo-poo me on this, but I think in 10 to 15 years, the best wrestlers in the country are going to come from the state of Texas because of programs like Cyfair ISD. Thank you, Mr. President.
We will now hear public comments. And Mr. Secretary, do we think our technology is working this evening? Excellent, excellent. And to let you know, we do have one trustee who is with us remotely. That is Miss Debbie Blackshear. And while we're checking on the sound, I would call upon our counsel, Miss Marnie Sims. Would you explain if this is legal? Can Debbie vote? Can she smile? Tell us the ins and outs.
I'll be brief, which those of you who know me know that's not my strength. But just very quickly, when this first rose that Ms. Blackshear was going to participate by Zoom, Mr. Jackson wanted to make sure that everyone knew that the Texas Open Meetings Act does allow for this, as long as the quorum of the board is present physically in the location where it's posted for the meeting to take place, and that it is available to the public, then a trustee may participate through audio video conferencing, and that's what Ms. Blackshear is doing. And she has two-way communication, so she can hear, and you can hear us, and she can hear us. So yes, Mr. Jackson, the Open Meetings Act does allow for this.
Thank you, Ms. Sims. The first on the list is State Representative Penny Shaw, who is still outside, I would suspect. And when she comes in, we will honor her position. The next speaker is Lazar Espinosa. I will go to the third speaker then.
Do we have, only thing I would ask is, do we have anyone in the overflow room? Do we need to be making announcements and giving people time to come? I don't know. I know we set up for overflow. Why don't we go that before we, ma'am? Okay. I just wanted to make sure, Mr. Jackson, that we didn't have any speakers and there wasn't someone, running down the hall trying to get here. We do have overflow, but Ms. Francis says she doesn't believe any speakers are in overflow.
Well, very good. As long as I'm not running afoul, I will recognize any of our speakers who are not here when their names are called.
Yes, so long as we haven't moved on.
Right.
Public comment does have to come first before that.
Mr. Jackson, before we do that, and it might give some of our speakers time to get here, we've got a couple more things that I didn't realize we had on thanking the board, so could we do those?
Yes, sir, by all means.
Okay, thank you, and I apologize. First of all, we have Leslie Martone, president of the Cyfair Houston Chamber of Commerce, who is going to congratulate our board members.
I always go in the beginning, and I thought, well, maybe not.
I messed up.
That's all right. Thank you, President Jackson, Dr. Henry. I'm excited, valued board. I'm excited to be doing this for the 10th time, celebrating my 10th anniversary this year, representing all businesses in the Cyfair community. Our board members that have served in this past year, I appreciate every hour that you've put into it for our kids, for our custodians, for our teachers, for our administrators, for everybody that works for this school district. You guys have done an amazing job this year, and I really do appreciate it. For our new trustees, I am super excited to see you discover the school district that I was born and raised in, and that I love so much, that I raised my family here, and so proud to serve as a leadership position in this community. There are people in decades that have sat in the positions that you're sitting in, the chairs that you're sitting in, leaders that have led our community and have led us to be the third largest school district in the state of Texas. And it is not because of our population. I'm going to say it again. It is not because of our population. People choose to move. It is still the #1 reason we hear in the chamber office that people choose to move here, because of our amazing school district. I have a son in special ed. I know that comes up a lot. He was served in every capacity. He was challenged in every way. In every IEP meeting we sat there. And he has graduated and is thriving and is a valued member in the Cyfair community. And I'm proud to serve not only as the president of the chamber, but to be a friend of the school district and to appreciate you tonight. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, President Martone.
Okay, and as Monty Hall used to say, and that's not all. We have a tribute video now created by the Bridgeland High School AVP students, so you can watch your monitors.
The past couple of years have been challenging for all levels of education. With strong resilience, we at CFISD adapted and overcame unforeseen obstacles with confidence.
Thanks to you, our amazing CFISD board, and your commitment to protect students during these constantly changing times, we are able to rise above and soar through the clouds. As you help us plan for our future, we determine to win the day with the utmost courage, wisdom, and compassion.
Thank you for your sincere commitment to us all.
And continuing on, as I did do earlier, thank the principals and community programs in our departments for providing all of the goodies here for the board and the books. And this year, the 2022 Board Recognition Month theme is Rising Above. And again, with what we've dealt with the past 2 years, certainly that's a great motto. With that, Mr. Jackson, I think I've done everything I'm supposed to do now, so I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. Tylana Hudson. And while you're setting up, please remember we have a 2-minute time limit. The yellow light will come on when you have 30 seconds to let you know you need to wrap up. When the red light comes on, that means you're out of time. And so please wrap up with a concluding sentence if you haven't already done so.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm speaking on the equity audit. I stand here not only as a teacher, but as a community member. I have lived in this district for over 10 years and have seen tremendous growth. Over the past couple of years, teachers have gone through highs and lows in education, from the pandemic to the recent controversy in regards to CRT. Do we even know what CRT really is? Do we have courses in it? Is it even mentioned in our secondary schools? CRT is not even offered in university until some schools are in their junior or senior year and possibly postgraduate studies. But some of the members have ran on this fear. In short, CRT has nothing to do with making people feel bad about themselves, but to offer insight and perspective on how to better provide services and opportunities. But that's not why I'm here. It was made very clear on Monday how people feel about equity versus equality. Do we even believe in equity? Do you even think or agree that people should have the same opportunities and avenues as everyone else? It was practically said that teachers that look like me are the reason why kids drop out of school. Do you even know who I am? Have you set foot in my classroom? Do you even know my background? Have you stopped and thought to yourself why kids even drop out? I guarantee you that it has nothing to do with the color of my skin. Instead of attacking and questioning teachers, ask yourself, what can I do to best support them? How can I get them into education more so that students have not only someone to look up to, but they have themselves that someone can understand them? I hope that all of you really dive deep into what was said and the damage that it has caused. I'm really not seeking an apology because it will be wasted. I'm seeking that if you are going to sit on the board, that you have to realize that teachers who are day in and day out of striving, not only to provide an education that is equal, but an education that is full of equity. One last thought. I never had any black teachers growing up. One experience caused me to change my course in life to become an educator. I became the black teacher that I strongly long for. And despite the false stats that were shared, none of my students to this day have dropped out due to the fact that their teacher was black. Instead, they have thrived and are changing the world one day at a time. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Judy DeHaan.
Thank you, Board, for allowing me to speak again this evening. And let me begin by stating that I support Scott Henry and the goal of ensuring that all children are provided with the resources and curriculum they need to be successful. The audit does not focus on ensuring that each individual child will be given the tools they need to increase their performance in reading, writing, and arithmetic. Rather, the focus has been on conducting an audit to validate the necessity for implementation of these divisive SEL programs, which hampers recovery of student learning due to the pandemic. Why didn't the board and the public receive the entire equity report, audit report, to effectively prepare for this meeting prior? Why was the board only given the executive summary for the working session? What are we trying to hide? This shows a lack of transparency and commitment to assist all students recover from the results of the pandemic. We should be focused on improving the performance of 56% and 58% in reading and math proficiency, respectively. The recommendations of the Millennial Learning Concepts Group were to use Fort Worth, Austin, and HISD as models for supporting these equity initiatives within Cypher ISD. As pointed out on Monday, HISD's performance is not indicative of a stellar performance. The opposite is true, and their COO is under indictment. With respect to Fort Worth, the co-chair of Fort Worth's Racial Equity Committee recently resigned under pressure after charges of doxing were made. She had posted the phone numbers and addresses of 4 families who had filed a lawsuit against the school district for imposing a mask mandate and obtaining an injunction against it, and also left a profanity-laced voicemail from one of the parents whose phone number she posted. Her response was, "Some people find my choice words offensive, but really offensive is the 4 white parents who could hold so much power." Are these the models that we want to use for Cypher ISD? I would say not. I again reiterate my support for Scott Henry and the other trustees to end CRT and equity programs at Cypher ISD.
Our next speaker is David Barker.
Hello, I'm David Barker. I'm addressing item 10E, that relates to the sale of an easement along Winford at Campbell Middle School to the North Harris County Regional Water Authority. Based on my calculations using data and maps from HCAD, there's approximately 17,000 square feet of easement, and it was appraised at and being sold for $169,000. That's $10 a square foot. Congratulations on getting an appraisal that was 20 times the amount of the appraisal for the Winford property sold last month, and 10 times the actual sales price for that property. Was the appraiser used on this easement the same as the appraiser used on the last sale? It also appears that CFISD is selling an easement on the property sold last month. How can an easement be sold on a piece of property that is already sold? Something appears seriously wrong. The board needs to investigate the situation. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Gerald Daniels.
Good evening, Dr. Henry and trustees and fellow Cypher parents and citizens. My name is Gerald Daniels. I have lived in the Cypher School District for 45 years. I have 4 children and 2 grandchildren that have graduated from Cypher. I also have numerous family members and friends who have worked in the Cypher ISD. For the last 12 years, I have mentored middle school boys in the Cypher School District. And I want to get to what I've had to say. I have reviewed the executive summary of the Equity and Culture Audit and strongly urge the board to implement the recommendations resulting from that audit. We began by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, and a portion of which states, "One nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." Some of the things, I said it was a portion, okay? But it is under God. I'm a Christian, and I do believe that. I did not.
Okay, thank you. Audience members, I need you to refrain from engaging with the speaker. Go ahead, sir. You can.
Thank you. Thank you. The audit recommendations are data-based, and they address issues that are clearly evident in this report. They're clearly evident. And so if the school district is going to continue to progress and be the school district that it has been, it is going to have to make some changes. And so this audit is the first step. And to reject them out of hand and summarily say that all the things that I heard
Need
at
to
the
wrap
meeting.
up, sir.
Thank you. At the meeting on Monday night is not going to get us there. So we need to work together and get this done.
When members of the audience choose to interrupt one of our speakers, we are adding that additional time to that speaker's time. So I appreciate the forbearance of the audience. Please be as courteous as we can. We may not agree with what the speaker is saying, but let's be courteous. Thank you. Our next speaker is Alexei Swirsky.
Yes, I am addressing the racial equity audit, and this also, my comments also pertain to the racial resolution that was passed, and I have yet to see because I can't find it on the website. This report seems more like a report that has preconceived notions and ideas and not supported by research. I took 3 courses in statistics in college. This is not a consistent, reliable report, and in fact contradicts itself. On Table 2, in the executive summary, student discipline trends, are these percentages of students who were suspended, number of times each student was suspended? It's unclear. And also, trends are supposed to measure things over time. There's no time periods referred to, much less one time period to another. Another inconsistency in the report is Asians had the lowest discipline rate and also the lowest percentage of teachers and other staff were Asian, which contradicts the point made after Table 3 that students have lower disciplinary rates when they have teachers who look like them and share a cultural background. It just shows the study is inconsistent and should not be used in making decisions. It says one of the goals is to develop 21st century global leaders. I cannot find that defined in the study. I would need to, before I would take that seriously, know what exactly that means and how it pertains to good education. The racial equity report seems, like I said, more like a report with pre-planned conclusions than a true, accurate research effort. In the executive summary report, Asians are not listed as a separate ethnic group in the student achievement table, whereas in the student discipline table, they are. Just another area of inconsistency. It's my understanding that there were trainings for teachers last summer that talked about white privilege and which made teachers embarrassed and shamed for their race. This is illegal. To quote from House Bill 3979, participation in any internship, practicum, similar activity involving social or public policy advocacy, a teacher, administrator,
Please
or other
wrap up.
employee
Thank
of a
you.
state agency, school district, or open enrollment charter school may not be required to engage in any training, orientation, or therapy that presents
Thank you,
any form
ma'am.
of race or sex stereotyping or
Thank-
blame on the
thank
basis
you, ma'am.
of races or sex.
Our next speaker is Ron Guidry.
Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak to this issue. Using race as a criteria for hiring has always led to discrimination against good qualified applicants. Race has never been a good indicator of quality of or character or ability of the individual. If a group is promoting a hiring policy based primarily on race and someone opposes such a policy, my question is, are there any racists in this situation? And if so, who? I believe we all oppose racism. Now, I know this may be a simple observation from someone that's been around a while, so please bear with me. Racism to me, is, in its simplest term, is either elevating some or suppressing others based purely on their race. It appears to me that a policy based on race, by definition, makes it a racist policy. And those that oppose such a policy are opposing a racist policy. I believe it helps if we make that distinction between racist people and a racist policy. I believe the color of one's skin should have no standing in a school district's hiring policy. That is if we want the best qualified teachers for our children. If we want our children to become more colorblind in their outlooks toward others, then we as parents, and especially...
You can, audience members, I need you to not engage with the speaker. It slows down the meeting, it's disruptive.
If we want our children to become more colorblind in their outlooks toward others, then we as parents and especially as board members need to set the example. Let's try and set aside personal emotions triggered by key words and focus on the tenets of the policy at hand and what is best in the interest of our children. If you want to adopt a racist policy, just be honest in who you are calling a racist. Thank you.
No.
So for our audience, please be courteous. We have a full house tonight, and side comments really are not helpful. Our next speaker is William Ellie.
Thank you. I'm both disheartened and disgusted by certain members of our community in their virtue signaling, bully tactics, and gaslighting Mr. Henry. Millennium's recommendations are not all substantiated by the data in this report, not at all. They're referenced, not his, HISD as a shining example of having better students-teachers ratios that look like each other is a racist comment itself. What school district on earth would look at HISD as a role model? Where are these community members? Where are these communities? The AFT, Lena Hidalgo, and the Houston Chronicle last summer when racially divisive media posts from previous board members were exposed. I don't recall their torches and pitchforks then. Of course not. It didn't fit their narrative. Mr. Henry, I want to thank you for seeing the audit report for what it truly is, political propaganda. Dr. Blasingame, I believe you identified the biggest weakness in the report, that being a lack of any input from the district's primary stakeholder, the parents. How can that be? Okay. Surely if the district is systemically racist and full of inequities, parents would have something to say about it. Mr. Scanlon.
Okay, guys, you cannot interrupt the speaker.
Mr. Scanlon, I want to pass on my sympathies to you, your family, and of course your daughter. Regarding your comments on disciplinary process and incidents, I too didn't see a single ounce of evidence or data identifying any correlation or causation of disruptive behavior and ethnicity. Research has empirically demonstrated the single most important factor impacting a child's academic success is a teacher. Therefore, it stands to reason that money, time, and energy taken away from a teacher with their students is an opportunity for improvement. A good teacher can do great things with underperforming students, regardless of the teacher or the student's skin color. Let's redirect further time, money, and energy from this social justice propaganda to the teachers.
Please
and
wrap
let them
up, sir.
do their jobs. I ask the trustees.
Please wrap up, sir.
I get more time for the interruptions. I have one sentence left.
What?
I ask the trustees respectfully
Audience, hold on, Mr. Ely, I'll let you finish. Audience, you need to be quiet. He has one sentence left. Please be respectful, and I will make sure that people are respectful when you are speaking. Please.
I ask the trustees respectfully disregard the unsupported recommendations in the audit and get on to the business of teaching our children. Thank you.
For the audience, the secretary did add additional time to the speaker.
Oh, Tom, stop.
Okay, folks in the audience,
Kicked you out.
if you want to make those comments, please go outside to the parking lot. We need to continue. We need to be respectful. Our next speaker, and I do not have a clue as to how to pronounce your name. I will spell it. O-D-U-S, Otis, E-B-B-A-G-H-A-R-U.
I graduated from here. Come on, President Jackson. Thank you so much, board. Thank you all so much for allowing us here to speak. I'm here to speak on item 7A, equity and inclusion. And you know, for me, for going to elementary school, middle school, high school here, graduating, Langham Creek alum, this is not Cy-Fair. This is not the Cy-Fair community I know. To sit down here and listen to what I just heard, this is not the community I grew up in. I have classmates that have texted me, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. Like, I can't believe I'm hearing this from school board members that once taught me, that I once was in their home, that once welcomed me. Now we're feeding into political rhetoric that is just gone beyond a pale. School board members, when these comments were made, not one of you spoke out. Desmond Tutu said, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. I'm telling you right now, history is not going to remember us of choosing the side of the oppressor. We need these equity studies. People forget about slavery. They forget that the civil rights is just as old as many parents that are sitting in this crowd. You forget Cy-Fair High School has plethoras of water fountains. Why? Because it was a segregated high school. Don't forget the history of this school district. Don't let one comment let you forget that. Don't let these people tell you that they're scared of the very same people that they want to live in the same world in. Don't let these people who will celebrate MLK on Monday, but sit down here and tell me that I'm not equal. School board members, administrations,
please
don't
conclude your
choose
comment.
the side of the oppressor today. Don't choose the side of the oppressor tomorrow. Do not choose the side of the oppressor for the rest of your days. Stand up for us. Stand up for these students
Please
who need
conclude
these
your
equity.
comment. Please conclude,
Thank you
sir.
so much for your time. Hey, they didn't stay on topic, so I'm not going to stay on topic. This is personal for me. This is personal for me.
Our next speaker is Brian Henry.
I got to follow Otis. When commenting on the equity audit Monday night, one of the board members called for an investigation and firing over a professional development session on white privilege. That same board member implied, while comparing dropout rates in HISD and CFISD, that hiring more diverse teachers was either unnecessary or undesirable. As an educator myself, having earned my certification from Texas A&M, I know the importance of equipping all teachers to serve their students to the best of their ability. Research has shown that it is beneficial for a diverse student population to have diverse teachers. and CFISD should seek to hire more teachers who reflect the diversity of the community. If white teachers are teaching diverse students, it is imperative for them to have professional development that helps them serve those students. In my certification program, I was required to read a book titled White Teachers, Diverse Classrooms that helped me recognize unconscious bias, harmful stereotypes, and equip me to adopt culturally relevant teaching. This is not woke indoctrination in need of a witch hunt. This is what professional teaching in a diverse society looks like, and any individual who does not understand that has no business serving on a school board.
I'm going to go back to our second speaker who was not here, Cesar Espinosa.
Good afternoon. My name is Cesar Espinosa, and I'm Executive Director of FIEL. I'm also a proud parent of a Cypher ISD student, as well as my niece and nephews attend Cypher ISD. Si no empiezan a escuchar por lo que estoy hablando, entonces esa es una de las razones por que ustedes no pueden servir al más del 35% de la comunidad. Translate that if you need to help translating that. But basically, to summarize it for y'all, I said, if y'all cannot understand 35% of your students, which are Latino students and their parents, then there's something wrong with this board. A certain board member, which we'll call Tom and Jerry, said that if you hire more black teachers, then that would be a problem and it would lead to dropout rate. What in the Epoch Times are you reading that told you that was a clear statement to make? Find your news elsewhere or find another job, which I suggest you do both. But for the people that are here, you caused this to happen tonight. You caused this to happen tonight. And to further say, to add insult to injury and say that you are going to try to rescind the racism proclamation that you all made, which was a bold step for Cypher ISD, which was a good step for Cypher ISD, which made my niece and my nephew and my little sister say, hey, maybe for once I can go to Cypher ISD and not get scorned for speaking Spanish and be understood for something that I can't get rid of, which is the pigmentation of my skin. Man, you guys really do put it out there, right? And for those of you who are endorsed by BISMAT, are you really here for the students, or are you here for business? For those people in the crowd, I suggest you look into BISMAT and find out what they do, because some of these board members, including Tom and Jerry, was endorsed by them. And you don't want to see coming back, you need to resign immediately. And that is not a request. That is the community telling you that you need to resign.
Your time has expired, sir.
Thank you.
We'll see you in the next election. And for all of you who love Scott,
Thank
y'all
you.
are as racist as you.
Thank you.
Please move on, sir.
Thank you.
Folks, let's take a little pause. Let's breathe a little. I know we have passion, we have rhetoric. I love both of those. We need to be respectful. We need to stick to the rules. We don't want to be using names. Let's stick to the time limit. The next speaker is Stacy DeMeyer.
Good evening. Tonight I'm speaking about Agenda Item 11A, the resolution condemning racism and affirming the district's commitment of opportunity for all. I want to begin by thanking the board for signing the resolution, and by doing so, taking a stand against racism and inequality, and committing our school district to truly having opportunity for all. Before Monday night's work session, I was open to the idea of the board rewording parts of the resolution. The board president showed his due diligence in determining how they could go about doing this, and it was decided that the board would work together in creating a new resolution. However, comments were made at the work session that have completely made me alter my opinion on this approach. Board members, notably the ones who were not a part of the drafting of the original resolution, made extremely concerning comments during the equity audit discussion. One coined the term repeat offenders when referring to students during the discipline portion of the presentation, and another called the equity audit a pile of rubbish. He then implied that Black teachers are the cause of a higher dropout rate in another district, something that is completely unfounded, by the way, and suggested that hiring more Black teachers for CFISD is not something he's particularly interested in. This is considered to be employment discrimination and a violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This trustee must resign immediately. There is not enough time in these 2 minutes to go through every concerning comment these two board members made. Their comments clearly show that they have no business being a part of the drafting of a new resolution. I have zero faith they can contribute anything good and truthful to a resolution condemning racism. They cannot be a part of this process, and therefore the old resolution should remain as is. Recent events have shown that we need this resolution in this district now more than ever. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Our next speaker is Dr. Tara Cummings.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tara Cummings, parent and member of Cy-Fair Civic Alliance. I want to express my deep gratitude and respect toward the district and the trustees who commissioned the equity audit. CFISD is a shining example of exceptional public education. We are not, however, a perfect example. The only way to make progress is to continually identify and remediate our areas for growth. The equity audit unequivocally identified a number of areas, including the disproportionate discipline of our Black students, the need to hire more diverse staff, the need to develop and consistently implement clear equity practices district-wide, and the need to create an equity office within the district, and I hope we do those things. I expected that the results of the equity audit would confirm the ongoing need for the resolution condemning racism, and I was right. Two of our trustees, one of whom is deservedly at the center of the current outrage in our community, stated on Monday that they prefer to do away with the resolution entirely and not develop a replacement. That's beyond horrifying, though not at all surprising given their campaign rhetoric. Also horrifying was one of our new trustees' statements attributing poor educational outcomes to Black students and saying, quote, opportunity for all, I don't like that. In his statements and his social media, in which he has hearkened back to the segregation of the 60s, he has threaded a needle and stitched a straight line to his deeply seated racist worldview, which has no place in public education or CFISD. The community has responded with absolute ire, and rightfully so. His statement regarding Black teachers is simply not true. Anyone who understands the basics of research, who is indeed, and I quote, a big data guy, comprehends that the plethora of data over many years is clear. Black teachers and diverse staff are a boon to public education, period. His statements have caused immeasurable damage, most egregiously to our staff and student of color. It has also served to distract us from doing the important work of becoming not only an exceptional district, but an equitable district. To the board member who made those comments, the writing is on the wall. You need to resign and do so immediately. To our staff and students of color, I am so sorry that you have been subjected to the reprehensible, racist blathering of our newest trustees and their supporters. Please know that they don't speak for our district or our community as a whole. We trust you, we appreciate you, we value you. We belong to each other, and we will continue to fight with and for you.
I will ask, one of our state representatives had signed up to speak. Do we have any of our other elected officials in the room? Seeing none, we'll continue. Our next speaker is Francis Romero.
I'll be speaking on agenda item 7A. Mr. President, trustees, Dr. Henry, and members of the administration, I'm Frances Romero, proud mom of a CFISD graduate and also of a current junior in high school. I've also been a CFISD elementary school teacher, a PTO president, a VIPS board member, tutor, mentor, and currently CLC member and drill team mom. All of these experiences have given me pretty good insight into the needs of our students. First and foremost, we want our students to learn in a safe environment. The next most important element is quality teaching. We want teachers who are qualified and passionate about their area of education. Thirdly, it is important that in a school district with a 78% non-white population, that the faculty reflect the demographics of all of our kids. Teachers, administrators, and all staff are role models and can impact student success. A component of this is students seeing a reflection of those who look like them, but also those who are different. It is my hope that this board and administration continue to strive toward hiring a diverse workforce, and that the board, and adding this to the board monitoring system as a goal. The emphasis should always be student safety and academic excellence first, but it is important to put forth a concerted effort to expand that excellence to include a range of demographic backgrounds that are consistent with the richness of our student body. There is no reason that academic distinction and outreach to a diverse workforce have to be mutually exclusive. The two objectives do not have to be placed into silos. I am confident that this board leader and district leadership can maintain its high standards while seeking out employees with whom the student body can identify. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Mrs. Nikki Cowart.
A warrior for students and those that serve them. Isn't that beautiful? I'll repeat it. A warrior for students and those that serve them. I would hope every person here in this room tonight would strive to be described that way, because that should be our focus, right? Working together to fight for our kids, all of our kids. Together, our AFT union members have always centered our students and unapologetically named that equity in race, gender, identity, ability, and common language is foundational to changing student outcomes. So despite the recent politicized rhetoric, we know an anti-racist education system is necessary to lift all students up. We cannot be divided and must move forward with our allies for their sake. There was discussion here on Monday night around the equity audit, and it included false statements, very hurtful comments. We ask that the board members here that believe racism is wrong, period, make a stand against it. On this eve of MLK Day, like Martin Luther King Jr., I'm reminded of another very strong black leader, the late, great Maya Angelou, who said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them." When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. No more excuses in our path forward so that we can all be true warriors for our students and those that serve them.
We do have one of our elected officials who stepped into the room who has signed up to speak, so I'm going to move ahead. But we'll come back and pick up everybody. State Representative John Rosenthal. And before you start, Representative, I would remind the audience the last time the representative was here, he was interrupted numerous times, was not permitted to finish. Our policy now is to keep adding time until the speaker has finished their comments. So let's see if we can't go ahead and give him his 2 minutes without interruption. Mr. Representative.
Thank you, President Jackson. Board trustees and superintendent, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak here. My name is John Rosenthal. I'm the Texas State Representative for House District 135. I'm very proud to represent Cy-Fair Independent School District in government, in our state government. Some of you might know that my father recently passed away. Now, my daddy was a lifetime educator who taught me to revere our teachers and education workers. So speaking on the equity audit, because when I saw one of our own school board members making a blatantly racist statement, I was shocked. Here's the direct quote from the discussion. Quote, Houston ISD, which I'll use to shine an example, you know what their average percentage of black teachers is? 36%. I looked that up. You know what their dropout rate is? 4%. I don't want to be 4%. I don't want to be HISD. I want to be a shining example. I want to be the district standard. I want to be the premium place where people go to be. When the backlash over this statement hit, that same member said that he had been mischaracterized, that when other people said those comments indicated black teachers, having more black teachers leads to poorer student outcomes, and anyone who says that should be ashamed of themselves. I think the one who should be ashamed of themselves is the one who said the words. You know what their average percentage of black teachers is? 36%. I looked that up. You know what their dropout rate is? 4%. I don't want to be 4%. I don't want to be HISD. The statement is racist on its face. There's no room for that in our school district or in our state. The statement is disqualifying for a board member for this community. And I'm going to agree with what Nikki Cowart said. When Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
Is State Representative Shaw in the audience? We'll go back to our schedule. Susan Nichols is our next speaker.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm Susan Nichols. I'm a 29-year resident of Cy-Fair. I'm the parent of 3 Cy-Fair children and graduates. 2 have already graduated. I have a senior this year. I've mentored in this district for over 7 years. I've spent my whole professional career serving the Cy-Fair community. I'm a candidate for a doctoral degree in leadership transformation with a focus in cultural transformation. I'm studying the demographics, and in fact, my thesis is on increasing intercultural sensitivity in a racially diverse community with a focus on Cy-Fair. I think I need to explain a little bit. I have a teacher bit of heart at me, and the difference between equality and equity. Equality is when each Equality is when each individual or group is given the same resources or opportunity. Equity recognizes each person has different circumstances and allocates resources and opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome. We, through working in nonprofit in this community, developing nonprofits, helping churches develop nonprofits, I have come to see that not all students have the same experience or circumstances in this district. There are various barriers, sometimes language, sometimes socioeconomic, sometimes access to resources, and sometimes knowledge on how to navigate those resources. If we are going to have a mission as a district to maximize every student's potential, then we have to recognize that not every student is the same. Not every child has the same access to opportunity. Our role as educators
wrap up your
and
comments.
adults is to be able to help position those students to have the maximum amount
Please
of
wrap up, ma'am.
opportunities to reach their potential.
Our next speaker is Ryan Lamb.
Hi y'all, what's crack-a-lackin'? Oh my god, it's fun to be here tonight. So, we're all here for the Drama Fest, obviously, because we all love drama, who doesn't? But let's cut to the chase. So, I'm here speaking on 11A, the Resolution Against Racism. So, as my experience as a Bridgeton High School junior, I've noticed that it's weird. We don't really see color. We don't really see people's sexuality. It's not brought up to us. It's not something we focus on. And I think that can be attributed to the fact that we're so used to it. We're so used to being just like, we know equality. We know what it feels like. Now, having some of our school board members having some of our parents, honestly, trying so hard to pull that away from us. Why is it that the students are the ones at the front line constantly having to fight for our own rights, for our equality, and for being able to be safe in the school district? I mean, come on. So, I know that a lot of people think that the parents seem to be, so important in the schools, but they really aren't. It's the students. And people have such a large focus that we need to be teaching arithmetic, English, science. That's what's the most important thing about school. But what's the most important thing about school? Making sure students feel safe. Making sure they feel that they are equal. Now, do we really want to be cutting things that make students feel safe at school for the sake of arithmetic? Do we need another child to be forced to commit suicide because they don't feel that they are protected by the school district? So, I guess what I want to say is, please focus on the students, because we are the #1 priority of the school district. Thank you.
State Representative Jarvis Johnson. I apologize for not recognizing you earlier, sir.
That's quite all right. Thank you so much. Let me be very brief. Let me thank the board, and let me thank all the parents and the teachers that are assembled here today. As we talk about some of the things that are happening here, I'm not going to echo a lot of what has already been said, but I do want to take into account the student that just came. As we're talking about what's the most important thing that we must do here today is to keep our children at the forefront of the conversation. Comments made by the board member that were then tried to be walked back by the same board member by saying that this is being used as a political ploy by outside or out-of-state factions is disingenuous in itself. As a young student in elementary school, one of the very first things I learned from my black teacher was to be honest and take responsibility for my own actions. What we have seen happen across this city, this state, and this country has been to allow people to walk back their statements without taking accountability for them, only then to watch students use that same individual as an example. And that's where you see the division that is happening from the boardroom to the classroom. And so I ask that this board member take responsibility for the actions and the words that you have said. You made a horrible comment. You made a comment that was very hurtful to many people, black, white, Hispanic, and others. Take responsibility. Demonstrate to not only the children of this school district, but to your own children that sometimes you make mistakes and that you will take ownership for that mistake and correct it to make sure that the district stays intact and stays whole. With that being said, thank you to all of you who are being here, who are standing tall and standing strong. We must not allow these type of divisive comments to come in a way of what we're trying to do to educate our children. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Christina Woods.
I'm here to speak on the equity audit. I wanted to bring attention to a couple of things. One was the term added value that was used by one of our board members, and he was relating it to whether students with discipline problems added value in the classroom. We know what our other board member did, disparaging black teachers and insinuating that black students don't add value, because he didn't think that we should be spending money hiring black teachers to teach black students. So I wanted to ask the board a question. Who does add value in CFISD? If black students and black teachers don't add value, do brown students and brown teachers add value? Do economically disadvantaged students add value? Do kids with disabilities or mental illness add value? Do kids with behavioral or discipline problems add value? Do the dumb kids who are at the bottom of the food chain here in CFISD, do they add value? I've heard my kid called that, because she's on the bottom tier of learners. That's where she was. She dropped out. She's gone. She quit. Couldn't do it anymore. When she went to her IEP meetings, they would tell her, "You're not on track for college. You can't do that. You're not allowed. We're not going to support that for you. But we'll suspend you when an entire school year you get harassed by a white kid, and then you go into her school to her lunch period and tell her to stop, and immediately you're suspended." So guess what? My kid knew she didn't add any value. My black daughter knew she didn't add any value. I stand in solidarity with all teachers
Please
of color,
wrap up, ma'am.
administrators of color, students of color. I expect you to work with that
Please wrap up,
equity
ma'am.
audit and make it matter in this district, and to my daughter.
Our next speaker is Vincent Daniel.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Vincent Daniel. I've been living in the school district for 24 years. My oldest daughter is a JVH Jersey Village High School graduate, a Hampton University graduate, and is currently at Boston University Graduate School. My youngest daughter is a senior at Jersey Village High School. One of my daughters was arrested at Cypher for something she didn't do and charged with a felony. A felony. So I kind of understand how people can look at someone's skin and get charged with a felony with no evidence. Charges were dropped, of course, but I came to speak about the audit. The audit is there to help to look at the gap and look at strengths and weaknesses and see if you can improve the students, the conditions for the students and the conditions for the teachers. And at my place of employment, which is for the past 25 years, a global Fortune 500 company, we do the same thing every couple of years. We try to understand what do we do well and how can we improve. So I don't understand why people are so upset trying to make things better at Cypher ISD. I was in the Army National Guard and Army Reserve with honorary discharge. And there was a point where I was prepared to give my life for the sake of this country and the freedoms that it offers. And this was during the Gulf War when I was in college. And the Jesus Christ that I know and follow does not support injustice. And there's no place for racism, ignorance in our society, and especially coming from leadership. And I'd like for you to own your comments and show me you have some self-respect and resign.
Our next speaker is Brian Gator.
Thank you. Just bona fides really quickly. My name is Brian Gaither. I went to high school in El Paso, Texas, which is down the road a bit. My mother is a retired Texas teacher. I have an undergraduate degree from Cornell University in history and 2 business degrees, masters related. The most recent which it was at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, where I learned firsthand how we as Americans decide to educate black children. So just going to say that up front. I did read the full report, and I want to thank Mr. Henry for his comments that motivated me to do so. And I'm here tonight to actually encourage you to implement all the recommendations in them. So I actually went and looked up some of the statistics. I'm a taxpayer. I don't have kids in your schools, but I'm funding the educations of everybody else. And the reason I do that is because, 1, I support public education. And 2 is because I'm promised an educated electorate and workforce. And if you're really preparing one for the 21st century, they need to understand that they're moving into a world that looks very different than the one that we're coming out of. The report that I read and statistics I could find available publicly confirm that students who are not white in your district are 2.5 to 3 times as likely to drop out as the white students, despite the fact that they're 65% of your student population. I found that in Texas Tribune. I found it in this report. I looked at the bibliography. I think it's really shameful that people would look at a report like this, and I feel like I have the competency professionally to read and review this. I think it's really shameful that anybody would dismiss this just out of hand. My corporation, like one of the previous ones mentioned, is one that focuses on equity. We do actually take into account people's race when hiring. We do try to make preferences and find the best qualified candidates who support the diversity of our company. And I don't think this is something that's shocking in the modern world. I'm a little pressed that I should be here to have to sort of share this. I'm a busy person like most of you, and I'm clearly not comfortable with public speaking. But I think that you should actually implement all the recommendations here. And if you have to spend $1.5 million for that, do it. You've got $2.3 million, I think, that you want to spend on police cars tonight. So, priorities.
Our next speaker is Bruce DeMeyer.
Good evening, everyone. As I said, my name is Bruce DeMeyer. I'm a resident of Cy-Fair. I have 3 children who are or will be attending Cy-Fair ISD schools. I'm here to talk about the equity audit. And one thing I'm going to throw out there, follow the last few folks, I'm a partner at one of the largest consulting firms in the world, and we do an equity audit on ourselves every year, and I take it personally. And I make changes to myself to make sure that we are empowering every single employee at our firm. Reading through the latest equity report posted online, there were some bright spots, including the board resolution being discussed. However, there's definitely some things we can improve on. A few examples: 1, Black Hispanic students, reading, math, SAT scores, AP participation, graduation rate, all lagging behind white students by a significant amount. Black students also received disproportionately more suspensions. Interesting, this statistic came up, and one board member, the data guy, attempted to twist these statistics by noting that only 4% of black students have received in-school suspension. In case you're wondering, this implies that white students have a much smaller percentage. Third, our teachers, principals, and executive leadership don't represent the demographics of our students. We all know that one board member who implied that if we had more black teachers, our dropout rates would increase. Just so happens to be the same person who twisted the data as well. In summary, the equity report provided suggestions including more clarity and a system-wide focus on these issues. System-wide focus starts at the top. How can we achieve that when there are board members who have misrepresented the data, implied black teachers provide a worse education, and referred to the group who conducted this report as an out-of-state political organization? I at least agree on one thing: politics shouldn't be in here. Unfortunately, all of our new board members happily received and advertiser endorsements from the Harris County Republican Party, as well as a doctor in the community who went so far as to call their opponents in written mailers radical, pro-communist, anti-American leftists who are indoctrinating our children in critical race theory.
Please wrap up.
My mother once told me, "You are the company you keep."
Our next speaker is Dr. and Pastor Evelyn Ogletree.
Good evening, everybody, and to our superintendent and our president and this board. I am Dr. Evelyn Ogletree. I am an African-American teacher, and I have taught for many years in 3 different districts. I know teachers of all races, and you cannot determine whether they're good or bad by their race. But I want to just come and talk from the heart today. As you know, I am the proud wife of Dr. John Ogletree, a former board member, and the author and the reason why we're here with this equity audit. And I know him personally, and I know his heart. But what I want to talk about is my heart today as an African-American teacher. I am appalled at what was said. I am hurt. I am really cannot believe that this is happening in our district. I've been in Cyfair for a long time. I have raised 4 African-American men that are all college graduates, and they are all pastors. So they are godly men. My daughter is a college graduate. All of my children are college graduates. But as an African-American teacher in this district, I have to reflect back on the time that when you were in my classroom, it was a safe place. Yeah. It was a safe place for all children. Most of them were white. You ask any white parent in here or any of my former students, I treated them all like my babies, and I dare another teacher to mess with my chicks. My classroom was safe, and I trained my children to teach everybody respectful in this classroom. That's what an African-American teacher did. As an African-American teacher, I remember that an African-American parent came to me crying. She was at the low of the low, little alcohol on the breath, and nobody else wanted to talk to her. She said, "Can I tell you my story? Can you help my child? My child is failing." And I said, "I will personally be responsible for making sure your child excels." African-American male. Long story short, this young man has graduated from Prairie View A&M with his master's degree in mechanical engineering because I took him under my wing as an African-American teacher. And I see so many of us, we don't have
Please
money.
wrap up.
Yes, I will. But we spend our time and our energy, and I say, we cannot have this. Cyfair, you are better than this. Parents, speak up. Teachers, speak up.
Please wrap
and people
up.
pull together, and let's be the district
Please wrap
that I
up.
know Cyfair is.
Please stop. Mr. Secretary, are you ready? Allie Fitzpatrick is our next speaker.
Hi, my name is Allie Fitzpatrick, and I'm a parent of 2nd grade twins in Cyfair. And I'd like to start by thanking our board for conducting the equity audit. It's obviously something was needed because, boy, somebody said the quiet part out loud, didn't he? And now we all know. We know what we have, And it's up to this board to get rid of him. He has shown us what a racist power grab looks like. Manipulating data and misusing facts to further a racist agenda that damages our entire community, especially our children of color. In that board work session, old Buddy Boy mentioned that he wanted Cy-Fair to be a shining example for other districts. That will never happen if he remains on our board. The very fact the equity audit was conducted shows that the will is there in Cy-Fair to assess the systemic problems rooted in our system and progress forward in a meaningful and actionable way. Our trustees must embody the same mindset, and when we see by a trustee's own actions, language, and tweets that they do not, that trustee has broken the promise to students, teachers, and the community, and he either needs to resign or be fired. White allies in the community, if you consider yourself a white ally, it is time for you to stand up. It is time for you to speak up, and it is time for you to show up. This is not what we want in Cy-Fair.
Please
Black
wrap up.
teachers shine.
Please wrap up.
I'm gonna need, no ma'am, no.
Please,
Guys,
please.
no.
We only have 10 more speakers, I think. Our next speaker is Ron Watson.
Sorry, I gotta get my glasses. My name is Ron Watson. I'm a 20-plus year resident of the district and father to 1 enrolled and 3 recently graduated students. I'm here to express my support for implementing the recommendations in the equity and cultural audit, along with my support for the resolution condemning racism and a commitment to opportunity for all. What triggered me to address the board was comments made by one of the new board members, along with the comments made by the other new board members during the election cycle. Their comments and tone are very concerning to me, as I fear the new district leaders intend to lead the district away from the mission of truly serving all the students of the district. Looking at the demographics shown in the audit, only 22% of the district students are white, but the teachers, the principals, and executive leadership of this district is anywhere from 63 to 72% white. Representation matters, and for a board member to say or even give the impression that 10% of black teachers is too much in a district where our black student population is 20% is just wrong. We, in fact, need more diversity, not just in teachers' roles, but in all roles, including the board. The gap is even more acute with Hispanics, with 15% of teachers relative to 45% of the students. I hope and pray that everyone that serves this district in any role would truly love and put the interests of all students above anything else. The audit flagged huge gaps in achievement for Black, Hispanic, and economically disadvantaged students that needs to be addressed. And having teachers that look like them, who will truly represent and advocate for them, is just the start. There's also a problem in how much and how severe we discipline our Black students relative to other students. Seeing the data and these problems, the question to the board is, do you really care? And will you work to improve these numbers? In regards to the resolution condemning racism, it's sad that anyone would even have to defend or advocate to acknowledge that racism exists and is wrong and that we should condemn it. But here I am, having to urge the board not only to acknowledge the truth, but to address these issues such that not only just 22% of the districts feel comfortable, but all of the district staff and community feel comfortable.
Our next speaker is Latoya Crossbit. And please correct my pronunciation of your last name.
Crosby.
Crosby. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, we all know the comments made by the member. They were very hurtful. They made me furious and made all black educators furious. And I'm hurt. I'm so hurt, I want to cry to tears. The district has not condemned your statements. And I want to know, do they condone the statements? Because you didn't condemn it, so you must condone it. Black teachers do not increase dropout rates. We work 8, 10, 12 hours a day to help students, to decrease learning gaps. We want the best for our students. We work very hard. I would not have succeeded in life or became an educator if it wasn't for my black mother, who's a counselor and a teacher, and my black coaches who helped me. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't have graduated or became anything. Since the district did not condemn his statements, do they agree with that? Do you want to condemn it? Why haven't you made any statements? Any other place had this gone on, the organization, the business, the corporation would have condemned the statements of the racist person. That's right. And again, in conclusion, black teachers do not increase dropout rates, we decrease dropout rates.
Our next speaker is Paulette Downs Wellington.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Last name Wellington. Mm-hmm.
But I know it can't be said in 2 minutes, so I'll just demonstrate. My name is Paulette Downs Wellington, and that Downs comes from this slave, my grandfather, Albert Downs, and my grandmother, Missouri Isabella Downs. I believe in formal education, and so do all of the teachers in this world believe in really teaching all of our students. My grandparents were slaves. They were the parents of 12 children. This is my father, who became a college graduate, first generation from slavery. So did my mother. I am a product of the Jim Crow separate but equal. It is not and was not equal. We need to understand that. We need to know that. Look at her when she's talking to you.
Please stop your comments in the audience.
Call respect.
All right. To wrap this up, let's look at good history, mathematics, sciences taught by good, dedicated teachers. All of them, back in black and white, Asian, whatever. Let's do that, because this is an excellent district. My 2 children graduated from Cypher. Dr. Eric Wellington and Erica Wellington. My daughter is on the autistic spectrum. She is 52 years old, and she is truly my gift from God, because Cypher helped my daughter graduate and become that graduate.
Please wrap up, ma'am.
Okay, then, this is a good district, everybody. Let's
Please
get
wrap
on the
up.
friendship train and work.
Our next speaker is Clark Denson.
Good evening. My name is Clark Denson, and I happen to agree with that lady. Race shouldn't be an issue, and I think we're trying to teach our students, and I think we bring race into it way too much. We just need to practice getting the best people to do the job that care about the kids, and that's where I stand on that subject. Also, just happen to support Mr. Scott Henry, and that might seem a little surprising to you based on the statements that I just made, but I know the gentleman's a good man, so I'm just going to read this. One component of the Cy-Fair proposed equity program is to hire more black teachers in an attempt to equate the population and ethnicity of educators within the district to the student population. In a commitment on this objective, Scott Henry questioned the effectiveness of the recommendation by reiterating the statewide average of black teachers is 10%, whereas Cy-Fair is currently exceeding this average at 13%. Mr. Henry then pointed to the current statistics of HISD, which is cited in the report as exemplary, with a black teacher employment rate of 36% and a 4% dropout rate, and a student achievement rate much lower than CFISD. It was and is clear that the statistical correlation borne out of the data contained within the report and not the personal opinion of Scott Henry. The deceptive and disingenuous editing of this clip has launched an overt attack on Mr. Henry, and it's a clear defamation and denigration of Mr. Henry's stellar character. The truth in its entirety is that Mr. Henry, in a statement clearly available for all to see, that this character assassination is an attempt to effectively omit Mr. Henry's expressed desire that no child, no matter their race or socioeconomic
Please wrap
background,
up, sir.
receive the same level of education from the district in which he expressed a few
Please
moments
wrap up, sir.
from that edited clip. I'll just finish by stating that
Guys, come on.
this whole affair is disingenuous, and it's a politicization, and we're turning race,
Turn it off.
and we're politicizing it, and we just need to stop the politicization
Please wrap up, sir.
and get race out of our teachers and our school system.
Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is David Chu.
Good evening, board, audience. Last November, like many other people in the Cy-Fair community, I went to the polls and I voted. And like many of you, I was shocked in the past few days upon hearing the accusations leveled against one of the board members. And I had to hear his comments in full to make sure for myself what was being leveled against him. And when I did, I realized something. The claims that have been leveled against him are patently false. There was nothing that board member said was when you consider the entire statement made, starting at the 49-minute mark and going to the hour, nothing could be construed as racist. And it would appear that not a lot of the people here have viewed the whole thing with an open mind or any shred of common sense. And yet, a contrived and perfidious lie has propagated across the community. No one on the board has done anything wrong. No one has said anything wrong. If this district is to remain a district of integrity, the board member in question will not resign. No member of the board will validate the slander brought against him.
Guys, come on. He's got to be able to finish. Go ahead, sir.
And this mob that has come here to slander this man will go home and reconsider their actions. And our elected officials at the county and the municipal level, our county judge, our mayor, ought to be ashamed of themselves for propping up this disgusting hoax.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
To the audience, we're on the homeward stretch now. Daniel Gamble is our next speaker. Danielle Gamble.
Thank you, Danielle Gamble. A lot has been said already, and there's a lot of emotion in the room. And I want to first just come to you and ask for a call to action. We talk about what was said in reference to the equity and culture audit. And just to tell you a little bit about myself, I was a former educator for 13 years. I graduated actually middle school at Watkins, high school at Langham Creek, went on to teach at Cypress Springs, Cypress Falls, and Libi. As a student at Langham Creek, under the principal of George Hopper, Mr. Hopper, he was one of the best principals there. I was the first graduating class, first four-year class there. I endured the school shootout when Mr. Webster was shot. I went on to teach under Mr. Webster. I'm no longer in education, but I'm still educating every day. And I want to say to you, we have to vehemently, just completely refuse to put up with the behavior that we're seeing when statements like that are made. There's a show on TV on ABC that says, "What would you do?" And I love that show because it really shows how so many people don't get involved and many people do. And when you stand idly by and you don't get involved, it's just as if you are agreeing with behavior that should not be agreed with. And I want to talk a little bit about diversity. So going to school in Cypress-Fairbanks, I experienced racism. I started out first in Waller Junior High, and I was an excellent student, honor student. I went on to middle school in Cy-Fair, and I could not go into, honors classes until my report card came to show that I was an honor student.
Please stop, ma'am.
I just want to say, and I will stop my last sentence because this is far from what I have on my paper. Diversity is needed in our schools, and diverse staff will bring about a better education for our students.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Todd LeCompte.
Today. My name is Todd LeCompte. I've got two boys that go to, attend the school district. One's in 9th grade, one's in 6th grade. I'm here to discuss the equity audit. Like most kids, my kids have been, and probably your kids too, they've experienced being picked on at times. I did when I was a kid. but I don't teach my children to be a victim. I teach them to go to battle and stand up to bullies. You know what I do teach them? I teach them to stand for something or they'll fall for anything. I teach them that there are two things that will determine their success. That's their attitude and their effort, and to never get outworked by your competition. Where and when do these types of things get discussed in this school district? To be honest, I'm more concerned about my kid's grades than the race of the person teaching him. Seems like lots of these things being discussed in the school district is more focused on race these days rather than performance. Politics has infiltrated this school district. As adults, I look around and I'm just thinking to myself, we are failing our children. The way adults are even behaving at this meeting. Are we setting an example? I'm for equality. I'm for equity as well, but how do we do that? Do we fire teachers because of the color of their skin? If so, I can't support that. Is that what some people call progress? Now, it's funny, Martin Luther King Day is coming up on Monday. He was assassinated. He was assassinated, but he fought for equality. All right? I want people to think about that this weekend. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Julie Ricks. Julie Ricks. Our next speaker is Glenn R. Ettening.
Board members, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm a 34-year resident of the Cyfair Independent School District. My wife and I raised 2 children in this school district. They received an excellent education in Cyfair ISD that provided them with a strong foundation to attend college, and in the case of one of our children, to go on to medical school. They are both adults who are now contributing in a positive way to society. Along their journey from elementary to middle school to high school, they had a number of black teachers. The black teachers who taught our children were competent, knowledgeable, inspiring, and caring, not just for the black children in their classes, but for all their students, whether they were Caucasian, Latino, or Asian. These teachers added to the success of Cyfair ISD. They did not drag the district down or contribute to the dropout rate. They were an asset for the school, and they were an asset for the school district, not a detriment to it. I, along with many of my neighbors, are appalled and highly disappointed in the comments that were made. His words were clearly stated and were meant to convey exactly what he said. In his world, black teachers are the cause of high dropout rates. His rationale for the dropout rate of the HISD is woefully misguided and incomplete. There are numerous factors that contribute to high dropout rates in a school district, such as underfunded schools and economically poor neighborhoods. Why blame black teachers? In the racially charged atmosphere that exists today, that are fueled by comments like those, they're an easy target.
Please wrap up, sir.
Cyfair is a forward-thinking, diverse school district that is growing.
Please wrap up, sir.
We're moving forward. We cannot afford to go backwards.
Please stop,
We
sir.
cannot afford to go back to Jim Crow.
Please stop, sir. Well, I still have this one. Our next speaker is Linda Nuttall.
we have difficulty understanding one another because we define words differently. I'd like to start with the word equity. In CRT speak, that's critical race theory speak, it means equal outcomes, not equality. What they're looking for are things that are unbalanced between one race and another, and then they attribute the cause to being systemic racism. It could be many other causes, but that's what the a priori decision is. And then they make recommendations that will install contracts with their prescribed vendors to stir up more evidence, and that's racist. At our meeting on Monday, we learned that the board had a definition for equity at the time. Educational equity is about ensuring all students are successful. It's about removing barriers to student success. It's about working to close the achievement gaps. So it's about two things: resources. Do all the students have the resources they need to be successful? And are we removing barriers that are preventing them from being successful? That sounds pretty good. That's not what equity means when you bring in an equity audit. I'm not against ensuring that all students have the resources they need to succeed. I think we need to be more precise about removing the barriers preventing their success. One of the biggest barriers is a dysfunctional family situation. If we could teach children the formula for success, which is graduate from high school, get a job, get married, and then have children, then we would get 98% out of poverty by doing that regardless of race. And that's one of the things that we know in social.
Please wrap up.
What I heard from our school district on Monday was...
Please wrap up.
Yes, I am doing my last sentence. Was that we should not use race in hiring because the evidence shows that it doesn't bring about the results that we want. That's what I
Please
heard.
stop, ma'am.
And I don't understand why other people heard something
Please
different.
stop, ma'am.
But we,
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Our last speaker is Bishop James Dixon.
Thank you to the board, President, and to all of you who serve and give your time for the betterment of our children, to all of the parents and all of us who've gathered tonight. This is a very difficult conversation to have. The reality is America is at a crossroads, and so is Cypress-Fair ISD. Will you choose to turn right and take the path of racial equity and justice and equality, making sure that every parent, every child, every faculty member understands that they are valued not based on the color of their skin, but on the content of their character? The reality is the statements that were made were hurtful, insulting, offensive, demoralizing, ill-informed, even if not ill-intended. But ignorance is not an excuse when you hold positions of high influence, because every decision made in this district affects black teachers, brown teachers, black students, white students, and all the same. Without a view of equity and equality, one is not qualified to represent a district this diverse. And so the NAACP joins all other organizations asking this board member should step down. That is not a mean-spirited statement. That is not a mean-spirited statement. It just has to do with competence and qualification. Here's the reality. Do the history. How many people here were educated by a black teacher? Raise your hand. So when you say that black teachers lead to low performance and dropout, Raise your hands again. If you've been blessed by a black educator anywhere in your life, this is what black teachers produce. I close with this. Booker T. Washington
Please wrap up, sir.
was a teacher. W.E.B. Du Bois was a teacher.
Sir, please wrap
Fannie
up.
Lou Hamer was a teacher. I close with this. Yes, sir. When we value greatness
stop.
and brilliance, even when it's black, all of us are better.
stop.
And we're all better together. Thank you.
Please
God
stop.
bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that concludes our public comment speakers for this evening.
Okay,
To the audience,
no.
please. So we're going to
Sir,
take.
another outburst, and I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Please stop shouting from the audience. The audience portion, this portion is over. Now the business portion is going to continue.
I don't have board comments on mine. Yeah, I turned it. We will now proceed with the board comments portion of the agenda. Any board member may make a comment during this portion of the agenda without prior posting being required. Comment items may not pertain to the character of any student, staff, or board member and may not be discussed or deliberated upon at this meeting. I will start to my right, Mr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. The teachers of Cyfair ISD are the district's most important assets. I've always believed so, and I've said as much on Monday evening. I'm proud that our district has had the higher average of state, pardon me, I'm proud that our district has had higher than average statewide average of black teachers. I serve the teachers, students, taxpayers of this district. I was elected to, among other things, to do my part in being a good steward of taxpayer funds. Part of my responsibility includes analyzing proposals from vendors, contractors, and consultants. But because I dare to disagree that equates to a higher student retention rates, there have been threats upon my life, my wife, and my children have all been targeted. I will take that responsibility for not saying the words so eloquently, but I feel very passionately about our kiddos in our Cyfair and providing an equitable education to all. Let me be very clear. Any suggestion that I said more black teachers leads to worse student outcomes is a lie, and those spreading it should be ashamed of themselves.
Audience, please be quiet.
If you disagree with what I said, express it. I'm glad my comments motivated interest in the school board because 2 nights ago, not even a quarter of the seats were filled up in here. Seeing all of your support for our teachers and our children is a blessing. Their engagement for our students and teachers is a need from our community. But we have become so dysfunctional as a community that the line of questioning from a trustee to a contractor proposing a multi-year, multi-million-dollar contract means that that trustee deserves to be attacked in every way possible on every platform? Of course not. I reject that, and so should you. Our district will not get ahead of its political factions when they use it to get even with each other. If you don't agree with me, let's talk about it. Ask me questions. Sometimes courage means stepping into the arena to have difficult conversations. That's what we're here to do, and I know you are here to do it too. But don't forget about each other's humanity. We are neighbors. We're parents. We're a community. Having these difficult conversations should not mean lives are in danger. I see you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your thoughtful discussions tonight as well.
Dr. Blassingame.
Thank you, Scott. To every teacher, to every student, to Ms. Crosby, I love every student, I love every teacher, and we are here to serve each of you and all of you to make sure that we accomplish every goal that was stated for our community. I'm a passenger on Ms. Paulette Down Wellington's friendship train. I think that would be a great place for us all to come together to achieve our purposes. I loved Pastor Nathan's prayer for wisdom today. It will take that. I love the example of our female cadets in the ROTC, showing great symbols of both equity, equality, and excellence. I congratulate the Bridgeland students who showed excellence creating a video showing a way that students have, not just in academics, but in all aspects, are able to be excellent in our system. We do have a lot of work to do together. And I appreciate that all of you came out as engaged citizens. You came to this room today, or those who are watching online, so that we can get the work done, because that's what's going to take. Because guess what? Very little talk today was about the real core thing we have to take care of. We had an achievement gap before COVID, and COVID exacerbated that. Looking at our last data report and what we'll hear today in the taper report, and the same statistic of meets expectations that was used in the equity audit report, do we know that currently only 56% of our students are at meets expectations in reading, and 46%, very drastically impacted by COVID, are meets expectations in mathematics? That is terrible. I'll point you all to an NIH study done here in Texas. The study is not a new study, and it's one you can find, and I have copies if you need it, that approximately 80% of prison inmates in Texas, in a study that was done by the NIH, a robust study, were functionally illiterate. And of those, another 47.8% were found to be deficient in word attack skills, basically dyslexic. That is a school-to-prison pipeline if we do not address the literacy needs of our students, all students. We have to come together to work to make sure that we're laser-focused about our solutions being focused on our students and their learning. There are many things I care about. There were not many things I didn't disagree with in this room today. But what I do know is that our job as a district, a school district, is to educate our children so that we can give them a hope in the future, so they can be prepared for their future. I loved your story here, sir. He has these graduates who went on, now they are masters and doctorates, and they've gotten degrees. That was based upon a good education. Our founding principles to do that first. I would like us to take all our energy and focus it on getting every kid reading and doing math that gives them every door of opportunity. And we can do that together if we all engage. The time for experimentation is not now, nor is the time for politics. The time is for us to roll up our sleeves and get to work for our kids on the things that matter most. And that's not for all children in Cy-Fair. I know what, not for all children, no, for each child in Cy-Fair. We don't talk about 80% of the kids will achieve this score in literacy. No, each child needs to achieve that in literacy. 80% means 20% of them are left behind. And guess who's probably left behind in that 20%? We know the achievement gap that was pointed out tonight. We have to roll up our sleeves and do the work that actually matters. Labeling issues is not going to take care of it. If we achieve every metric in that equity audit, and we will all laud ourselves on the back for being excellent, being a great administration and a great board that gets Ward of the Year because we achieved those metrics. And not one more child will be able to read because of those metrics. Those metrics do not achieve literacy. We have to get real about the real work. I intend to hold us, the board, accountable. A monthly report when we're creating our board monitoring system, and we've already, thank you, Linda. Linda and I have had super productive discussions already. They've already reached out to other districts that are doing some work. Let's track, let us discuss actual reading data in this room every month,
and let's take care of all of each of our children in Cy-Fair ISD. And when we have done that, we will be the shining star and the shining example. And I would love one of those shirts over there. I don't know if you made that yourself, about our black teachers shine. I would love you to. Will you make me one? Thank you, because yes, every child will shine in our district, and every teacher is a shining example in our district. And when, you know what? The metric is we're getting it done for the kids. And so I speak very passionately about it. And guess what? Because I have played at this game of education for 29 years, and the next fad and the next fad and the next fad came, and they didn't make a difference for the children. I have seen us talk about all the things. We have to do the things that make a difference, and I know we can. This group, with the incredible passion and the intelligence that was spoken of here, and everyone's time and energy put to it, we can do it. So I look forward to the super bright future shining here in Cy-Fair ISD. I'm proud to work with every colleague up here to get that done in this amazing administration. This district has outpaced. This district has done incredible work, but guess what? Poverty matters, and we are getting increasingly lower SES, and that means we can make metrics like this and pretend we did something, or we can actually do the hard work there is and change that trajectory for kids in poverty and all kids and each child in CFISD. I am so pleased and proud of this group that's here. I hope I can count on you to be part of the solution with all of us. Let's get it done. Y sí se puede.
Mr. Sarabia.
Welcome, everybody. I was a little bit different this past month from the my usual months of going out and visiting the different areas of our district. I came down with the variant right over Christmas holidays, as my wife and others in my family would just kept me at home and within a confined area quarantine. So I did not get to get out as I usually do and visit with the district as I usually do. I'm going to read a statement here that left me many sleepless nights in recent days. We up here, I up here, hear the anger and the disappointment from our community and surrounding areas and our surrounding districts. We as a district are 78% minority. I see the left, I see the right, I see the moderates. Ugly words are being spilled, and feelings are being hurt beyond despair. I have heard from many in our community on what are you going to do, Gilbert? I have been on record before on this. I have faced some sort of racism and prejudices before. I have gone over that before. Been told to go back to Mexico by strangers. Looked down on before just because of the color of my skin. My grandfather served in World War I. My father in World War II in the Pacific Campaign. And countless other relatives in every war imaginable have served our country proudly. What would my father-in-law, Pete Medina, think now, who fought in World War II, Normandy, under Patton, Battle of the Bulge, liberated concentration camps? When he entered, he thought it looked like snow, but it was the furnaces that were burning 24/7 till they were liberated. And upon his return here to Texas, he couldn't even eat at a restaurant on his way to San Antonio with his family. Prejudices exist in all races, not just in whites. It's a misconception. Am I woke? I didn't even know what the word woke was. I didn't know I was woke until Monday, because I felt it right away. In HISD, I have friends there. I have family. My son teaches high school math at HISD. He's been offered here in this district and has chose his own path and challenges. He has excelled without one bit of help from me, and I couldn't be any prouder of Jared Sarabia. What would I have done if Monday night the word brown educator came out and not black? I took a 24-hour cooling period that I offered to my players' parents after a particular game when their kids don't get in the game. They want to shout at me, give me 24 hours cool down period. And that's what I did. I stated Monday that I appreciated the audit report. Yes, we authorized it, the previous board did. It's an audit, which is usually uncomfortable. Lastly, I want to apologize to our community, our students, our employees, our administration, and most of all, our educators throughout our district and neighboring districts. I had that talk again since Monday night with my children. Dad, what happened? What's going on? I'm sure some of you had that talk again with your children. Many a sleepless nights. Last night up till 3 o'clock, up at 7:30. I sought spiritual counsel within the last 24 to 36 hours to help me with this message. Lastly, to my family, my sons, my daughter-in-law and wife, Ginger. Believe in the better good of mankind. Give people a chance. Stay informed. Don't stray abruptly. Serve your community. Trust in God and family. Thank you, Tom.
To my left, Mr. Scanlon.
Thank you all for coming. In my background, I've been both an educator and I've been a musical clinician. I taught as a clinician in Clear Lake ISD, in Klein ISD, in Pasadena ISD, and in Alief ISD. The time that I spent in both Clear Lake and in Klein was exactly just 1 year apiece. The time that I spent in Alief ISD was about 3.5 years. The time I spent in Sam Rayburn ISD was about 3 years. During that time, I ran into kids of every single socioeconomic level, and I chose to spend my time where kids needed me most. And it was an honor and a privilege to be able to connect with those kids. I know them today. I'm on Facebook with them today. I know and I've seen pictures of their kids today. I want the community to realize that we're here and we took a job freely, committed to our kids in this community. My daughter is one of the kids in this community. We've been here in this community. I'm committed to serve this community and every single child. As I've served kids of every single socioeconomic level, I'm well aware that some kids, as I mentioned Monday night, it's simply their objective to survive. They need to get home and they need to come back. And for them, that is good for where they were. And when I work with those kids and I challenge them and I give them something that they can attain to, they find success. I continue to encourage them. And guess what? They feel proud. They find measures of success and they grow. And they attain levels that they didn't think they could when they started working with me. And I did that both at Sam Rayburn and at A-Leaf. So for the kids in our community, here in Cy-Fair, I'm committed to understanding where we can provide great access to opportunity so that our kids can succeed. I'm committed to supporting our children so that when they have access, they're held accountable to access that opportunity and make with it what they will. It's their responsibility. And my job is to make sure that I do everything I can in working with the rest of my board members and this wonderful administration team. I've only been here for a little bit, but I guarantee the commitment here is unparalleled. That those children have the opportunity to succeed, and all of them, every single one of them. And so, regarding the equity audit, I'm committed to understanding the information within it, all of it. And then with our board, we're going to work together and find opportunities to improve. And we will make meaningful change. I will find a way to support our team and understand and work with our community. So I look forward to these conversations. Some of them are hard conversations, and that's okay. I'm fine with challenging conversations. But I will find an opportunity for our kids to be healthy, vibrant, and to be successful. One of the reasons that I'm committed in the way that you hear to a strong classroom culture is from my own failures. And I'm going to be a little bit transparent to that. But when I began my college education, actually my high school education, leaving that, I did not have a good GPA. I was someone that was a lackadaisical student. I looked for opportunities to figure out how to skate the system. I was good at it. And then I got to University of Houston, and through my practices, I earned myself a 2.1 GPA. You can imagine how pleased my dad was. However, in the midst of my failure, I realized that I was wrong and that I had to take responsibility for my actions. And I did so in a way that I never did before. I told all of my friends, I'll see you later. I hired a tutor. I taught myself physics with that tutor because I didn't know it when I started. And I went from a 2.1 GPA there to 2 master's degrees at Rice, and then I went on to Harvard. And so the thing that I'm committed to bringing to each and every kid in our classrooms is the courage to commit to yourself, to find a path that works for you, to learn how you learn best, and to have and provide for them the tools to be able to do that. That's for every single one of our kids. And if someone challenges that that's not true, talk to me, because I promise you that is my level of commitment. Because I don't want them to go through the same mistakes that I did, and I want for them to be able to have the same commitment to themselves, that they can learn, that they can grow, and that they can change. And so I look forward to this community engaging. I am truly sorry for the hurt that's going on in this room, and I will do my part going forward to earn trust. Thank you.
Ms. Blackshear.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Can you hear me okay, Tom?
Absolutely.
Good. Okay. First of all, I want to thank the school district for helping me set up the technology so that I could fulfill my responsibilities and duties as a trustee to attend these meetings. For those of you who may not know, I am a COVID survivor from the Delta variant this past summer and had quite a journey back and was doing very well when I developed pneumonia and spent 6 days in the hospital over Christmas. On the advice of my doctors, I am isolating at home. I'm only to leave for doctor appointments, and that is because the Omicron variant is so very highly contractable, and it would not be good for me to get COVID again. As a matter of fact, it could be take my life. So I so appreciate the opportunity to be able to participate in our meetings, and especially this month when we have a lot of important issues that have come before us. And I too am very thankful and grateful for all of our community members, parents, teachers who have turned out tonight to express their concerns. I wish we could see this at every board meeting so that, you know, maybe it wouldn't lead to some misinformation out there, and so you could hear directly from your trustees. On the issue of our equity audit, I am going to reiterate what I said on Monday night. We don't have to embrace everything that was in that audit, but I believe there is some value and merits for further discussion. You know, I've been on this board now starting my 7th year, and I can assure you, hiring more diverse our teachers so that our ratio of teachers more clearly matches the diversity of our students has been one of our ongoing goals. The reason it has not yet been achieved is because our district is committed to hiring not just to meet ratios, but to hire qualified teachers to teach our students in our district. And I believe we have done a good job. Would we like the numbers to be different? Of course, but we all know that these past 2 years during this pandemic, we have lost teachers, and it is hard to recruit and find teachers. This district is willing to recruit and hire. We're just having trouble finding teachers who want to be in the classroom at this time, period. And I know I can tell you as a trustee that I do want our ratio to reflect the diversity of our students, but I don't believe that is quite possible at this time. But I can promise you that as a trustee, I will work with the district to help us look towards and continue that goal. But again, I'm not satisfied, nor do I believe any trustee nor our district is satisfied just to hire a body to teach because of their ethnicity. And, you know, there are many components that make up a successful student, and I agree that academics is very important for our students. But it's just not only academics that creates the whole student. It's a variety of things. And we are a diverse district, and we have kids who have special needs. We have students who are economically disadvantaged. We have students that live in homes where maybe they don't have parental support. We have students that are homeless. I mean, you'd be surprised by the number of homeless students in our district. So I see the value in this equity audit as us discussing and looking to make sure that we are providing for the whole student, not just academics, and that certainly is important. And I believe that we are doing a good job on that. We know we are, according to other districts in our state. We're not satisfied to just be leading. We do want to be the best, but we need to ensure that our students receive a robust education, and that is academics, that is your extracurricular. There's just a number of factors that feed into that. And I look forward to working with all of our trustees. I think we are going to get there, but you know, when you have 3 new members on the board, there is a learning curve. And I think in time, as we work together, discuss the issues, that we will find common ground. And I can assure you that I have a deep appreciation for every teacher, staff member, administrator. Being on the board for 7 years, I have seen how hard everyone works together for the good of our students. And I commit to you that that is always my goal, is what is best for our students. And I want to make sure that that graduation rate is one day 100%. Do I think it's attainable? Probably not. But I think it's something that our district really is working to achieve. And I want to see that my greatest thrill of being a trustee is graduation ceremonies and watching our students who have completed their education in Cy-Fair ISD walk across that stage and receive their diploma. And I am going to continue to strive to see that every student reaches that pinnacle and receives their graduation diploma. Thank you.
Ms. Heinerman.
Thank you. It's obvious from tonight's turnout that many community members have strong feelings on the issues being discussed. That's understandable. I usually start thinking about and working on my board comments over the 2 or 3 weeks leading up to one of our formal board meetings. But of course, reflecting on the events of the past few days has added weight and additional scrutiny to the words spoken here tonight. I am grateful for the many messages of support and positive feedback I've received over the last few days from teachers, parents, campus leaders, other district employees, parents, again, and retirees. One parent and community member expressed fear for his personal safety by attending tonight's meeting. I personally do not share this fear, but I understand that some do, including some employees who could not help but take comments made on Monday very personally. I respect that others' experiences may be different from mine, and the roles that we have may be different, but they are all valid. My fear is for the damage done to the morale of our teachers and staff. My fear is to the impact to our administration, especially after 2 intense, stressful years dealing with the pandemic and its effect on students and staff. I supported the resolution against racism and the request to have an equity audit conducted by an outside firm for our district. I was one of the trustees who voted unanimously for it. Truth is very important. There is no multi-million-dollar contract. It is not a political organization. Please, please do your own research and get the facts. And I encourage, it's very important that in order for things to work here, we're going to have to be honest and be truthful. For those who have attended or watched meetings over the past couple of years, you know I always try to end my comments by sharing a positive story about a teacher or a student. This week, while I was mentoring at one of our high schools, I observed a teacher working tirelessly, one-on-one, with a student who had missed several days of school and is falling behind in his classes. She listened to his excuses and his reasons and his worries. She was focused on holding him accountable while also expressing empathy and care. She told him that she wants him to be successful. She believes in him. She is here to help, and she's not giving up on him. This is what our teachers do every day. One of the girls I mentor and I were playing a game of Uno, and this may seem like play and maybe even a waste of time, but this is a student I've been meeting with since the start of the year, and she has barely spoken a word. It can be disheartening and sometimes frustrating when you're trying to reach a student and you just can't break through. But I'm not giving up on her. The highlight of my day on Wednesday is when she laughed out loud when she beat me at Uno. It was a little spark of joy. I also got to celebrate with one of our older folks in our community. She is the grandmother of a student that has received an appointment to the Air Force Academy. And she raised this amazing young man. By the way, each of these 3 stories is from one of the schools that was called out by one of my colleagues at the last meeting. We can talk about data points and KPIs all day long, but we are actually talking about kids. Kids who may not look like us or speak the same language or live in the same neighborhood as us. Kids who all deserve the very best that we can give them. I encourage my colleagues to spend time on campuses that they've never been to before, that their own kids don't go to. Spend time listening and learning. Our school visits are not meant to be inspections or chances for a gotcha. We do not govern by gotcha, and we do not govern by gossip. I know that governance is a hard concept, not just to understand, but to put into practice. I also know that I am not always right. I make mistakes. I read something recently that said, if you think you're always right, then you are not learning. I am still learning, and I certainly, again, don't believe that I am right all the time. There are people in this room who are experts in education, and I respect their expertise. There are people in this room who are experts in HR and IT, back row, and student services, and discipline, and health services, and facilities management, and transportation. I respect their expertise. It is good to ask relevant questions from the dais as a board member. It's okay to question. It is not okay to call for someone to be fired without due process or without consideration during a board meeting. As a board of trustees, we have a commitment to work together to close achievement gaps and remove barriers to student success. While we may have our differences, what should unite us, is a commitment to ensuring all students are treated with dignity and respect and provided the opportunity to succeed in school and in life. One of the parent speakers tonight asked two questions of the board. He said, "Do you care?" And my answer is yes, I do. And he said, "Will you do the work to make the district better?" And my answer is yes, I will.
Those of y'all who have watched me give my board comments know that I always have a standard outline. I talk about the many stops that I've made in the district, those things that I have seen. But for tonight's meeting, somehow that did not seem to be quite appropriate. We have all been new trustees before. As new trustees, we all stub our toe. It happens not just in this district, it happens across the state. I went through Leadership TASB. I have mentored brand new trustees from other districts. The mistakes we make all tend to be somewhat identical. One of the most difficult transitions to make for To go from citizen to new trustee is knowing the fence line that separates management from governance. Being a trustee is unlike any other elected position. It is not our job to act on behalf of citizens and step in to solve their issue. It is our job to refer their issue to the appropriate management line so that it can be addressed in that fashion. No other elected official really has to do that, but we do. As board president, I have a curious obligation. It is my job to reach out and touch colleagues when I think perhaps they're getting too close to the line of management, or perhaps when they step across it. I will say that I myself have been counseled by my colleagues for crossing that line. An example is, with or without due process, we can never call for the termination of an employee of the district. And the reason is simple. We aren't management. Not our job. A trustee that I was asked to mentor from a school district along the coastline close to Corpus Christi thought it was their job to get rid of the ag teacher. I had many long conversations with them that wasn't their job. But this is something that crosses the mind of almost every new trustee that I have ever spoken about. So I asked for a little forbearance. It takes a while to learn the job of trustee. I know you'll be upset with us when we stub our toe, and that's okay. But we'll pick ourselves up and we'll keep moving on. It is also not our job to take over the role of an associate or assistant superintendent or even a director. We want to. Some of us are qualified and competent to do that. But once again, we can't do that. No matter how much talent we bring to the table, it's not our job to do that. What's also funny is each trustee has an obligation to each other. And so that means for my colleagues here, if you see that I'm crossing that line trying to do this man's job, it's your job to yank me by the collar and pull me back. We only succeed when we work together as a team, all of us. But that we don't do management's job, and management in turn will not do our job. Our motto in this district is opportunity for all, and I was saddened when one of my colleagues said that they didn't like that. I don't know what my colleague meant, and I apologize because I did not ask. But I like the motto. I think it says exactly who we are. We offer opportunities for all of our students and all of our staff. It has been that way ever since I was on the board, and I will do my best to make certain it stays that way. On Monday evening, we had a 4-hour and 37-minute board meeting. I was tired. I know some of y'all in the audience who stayed for all 4 hours and 37 minutes were tired. There were comments made about a neighboring district. Let me tell you, I support this district. I think it's the best district in the state of Texas. But we can't cross that line to disparage other districts. In that line, I posted a phone call to the president of that district. I also sent an email offering my apology. As board members, what's funny is people actually listen to what we say, and we should always strive for clarity, and clarity is always difficult to achieve. A cornerstone of this district is the concept of visibility. That's visibility with a capital V. It doesn't mean that you sacrifice excellence. That concept was first explained to me over lunch by my friend Jody Lee Giles Jr. Some of you may actually remember who he is. He was a Bush appointee. We were both new hires, fresh out of college. We knew enough to figure out where the coffee pot was and not much more. But that was something he knew more than I did. Subsequently, all anecdotal observations and conversations with people whose judgment I value, as well as research studies, indicate that visibility is a key to academic attainment, and that is, in fact, our job. I appreciate the fact that I, and I'm sure as my colleagues, members of the community have reached out to me. We have heard you. We will strive to work together as a board for the betterment of our students and for our community. As I said, I did not suspect there would be any shortage of passion or rhetoric tonight, and I was not disappointed. I love passion and rhetoric, particularly when we all are moving in the same direction going forth. We have some conversations to have. They will be messy. Please put up with us as we are messy. I ask for your forbearance in that regard. And in closing, let me make the standard comment that every other year we always make at this time. I want to say thank you to the schools and the principals and the students. You came to say thank you to us. It took time and effort on your part, and in turn, I would say for myself, but for my colleagues up here, we thank you for the privilege of serving you. And with that, my comments are concluded, and we will have a 5-minute recess. The meeting is now reconvened. Citizen participation. Patrons who have duly registered for policy BED local may address the board regarding matters of concern and interest to the district other than the character of any student, staff, or board member. The board may not act upon any matter that is not listed under the action item portion of the agenda. We don't have as many speakers in this portion of the agenda. I know everybody will be somewhat disappointed. Our first speaker is Sakina Bradford.
Good evening to Dr. Henry, to Mr. Tom Jackson. I am Sakina Bradford, speaking on behalf of SELF. I, in the past, have been a familiar face at these board meetings, and I've always prepared a statement, but tonight I really wanted to speak from the heart and say that as a black educator in this district for over 15 years, I think it's 16 years now, I have always felt welcomed and supported in this district by our administration, this board, and our parents and our students. Black teachers are excellent in this district. We are well prepared, we are qualified, we're certified first and foremost, or you would never be hired in this district. Highly qualified. And I am very hurt by those comments that were made Monday night. Many of my colleagues are hurt, many of our administrators are hurt. Our community is hurting. And as a teacher, standing here tonight, I want to take the opportunity to say thank you to the board for your work over the past couple of years. It's been very difficult in the classroom. Our students are facing many challenges. Our parents are facing many challenges. We have a tough road ahead of us to close the achievement gaps. Our students need us, all of us. They need our curriculum, they need our hearts, they need our passion, our energy, and we want our parents to continue to support all of us in this district. We need equity, we need diversity. And I want to encourage you to continue with that work. Do the good work that the community has voted you in to do. And I also just want to say, dig deep if you really want to know why our students are dropping out of school. Talk to them. Try to contact their parents. Interview them. And I am sure they would never say, it's our teachers. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ryan Irving, Jr.
I'm going to say it again. It was once said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Sister Maya Angelou. Good evening, Superintendent Henry, President Jackson, Board of Trustees, and to all of the Cy-Fair community. My name is Ryan Irving, a product of CFISD and the current president of Cy-Fair Civic Alliance. The remarks that were made at Monday's board meeting were not only hurtful, but absolutely disgusting. To see someone that is supposed to be representing all children, stakeholders, in a district that is 78% minority, that made openly racist remarks is absolutely saddening. Part of this individual's response states, and I quote, "I am not a politician, and I don't care about politics." Then he goes on to say, and I quote, "I just care about our kids and their public education." Unfortunately, my words are getting twisted by political actors for political purposes. No. It is unfortunate that we have you sitting in a position of power representing children with your racist remarks. I have one question. If you, sir, do not care about politics, then why did you run for this office using a partisan right-wing platform that divided our district? I also want to note this individual does not represent conservatives in our community. CFCA, as well as I, do not tolerate racism, sexism, or hatred of any kind. We not only condemn this individual for his remarks, but call for the immediate dismissal and or resignation of this individual. To the other board members, I appreciate your apology. I also want to talk about courage. The courage to apologize when you've done something wrong, no matter the intent. To me is what is patriotic. You've called yourself a patriot in the past. My great-grandfather who fought in World War II, who was a part of the first all-black battalion that entered Germany during the World War, that is a patriot. My cousins who have served in Desert Storm, and my other great-grandfather that have served in Vietnam, that is what a patriot is. Lastly,
please wrap up.
I am. We look forward to the dismissal of this individual and to get back on what matters, which is our children. And lastly, never forget our district's motto, opportunity for all. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Latoya Crossbit.
He must have left.
Our next speaker is Jennifer Lorenz. Our next speaker is George Edwards, Jr., former trustee, Cypress-Fairbanks ISD.
Good evening to the Board of Trustees, Superintendent, and District staff. My name is George Edwards, Jr. After reviewing a recording of Monday's board work session, I've come to offer a few comments. I implore all of you to stop talking about race and inclusion and focus on teaching our students to read, write, do math, and reason. It is important that you as a board set a standard for academic excellence throughout the district. In order to do that, you must have high expectations for all students. In addition, be consistent with the standard. At a minimum, you should focus on having students reading for comprehension by the end of the 3rd grade. At the district's November Community Leadership Committee meeting, the administration reported that black boys were failing academically. This is not acceptable and it must be reversed. As the first minority elected to the Cyfair ISD School Board and a longtime education advocate, you are making a simple problem more complicated than what it should be. Cyfair ISD has a long history, a long legacy of academic excellence and preparations of its students. My 3 black boys are successful men today because of the academic preparation they received in Cyfair ISD. Quality teachers have no color. Amen. They don't come in special color. Teachers make the difference in the classroom if they have high expectation for their student success and behavior. Cyfair ISD has done a good job of diversifying its teacher and administrative staffs in the schools. Amen. A good part of Cyfair ISD prior academic success was the district's reliance on parents and community, on parents and the church community to play a role in the students' development. The district cannot do it by itself. The board should be careful about allowing itself to be distracted by things that don't matter as it relates to student learning in the classroom. Finally, I want to thank all of you for your service to the students and the parents and the community in general. I wish Cyfair ISD the very best, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
We did stretch the rules a little bit for you, George. Our next speaker is Monica Dean.
Ready? Many of you may have heard the outrage from parents regarding highly inappropriate books, many of which are sexually explicit or cover topics that are adult in nature, being discovered in schools across the nation. Shockingly, this illicit material has found its way not only in the physical libraries at Cyfair campuses, but also in the online libraries in the Sora and Destiny Discover app, which are on our students' Chromebooks. While some books may have been pulled, how many are more yet to be discovered? In a book titled Out of Darkness by Ashley Perez, the online summary reads a story of 2 teens, one Mexican, one black, and their dealings with race, segregation, love, and the forces that destroy people. This book not only has explicit language, but it also contains graphic rape, incest scenes between the main character and her stepfather, as well as references to anal sex and masturbation. A passage reads, "Take her out back, we boys figured. Then hands on the titties, put it in her coin box, put it in her cornhole, grab a hold of that braid, rub that calico." This is available to 9th grade and up through the Sora app and various high school libraries. This is pornography. In section 43.24 of the Texas Penal Code, it states, in Texas, it is illegal to provide pornography to anyone under the age of 18. Likewise, why are there books on Black Lives Matter, gender identity, and even a gender transitioning workbook? This transgender ideology is a tenet of critical race theory that Cyfair claims doesn't exist in the district. This agenda of normalizing immorality, seeking to harm the physical and mental and spiritual health of children and families has no place in this district, nor in public education, period. How are we to pick the just right books, as one board member suggested at the last meeting, if this summary is what is provided? How about the child that doesn't have parental involvement? Who orders and approves these books? Who writes and approves the summaries? The board member also suggested to reach out to the librarian. While that is a reactive response, we need a proactive solution. And what is...
Please wrap up.
Okay. And what happened to the mobile library link on the Cyfair website? Only a calendar of events pops up. What is Cyfair going to do to follow the law and protect the children of this district. And Scott, we support you.
Please
May
stop.
God protect you and your family.
Please
Truth
stop.
always prevails, and God's
Please
light
stop.
shines over evil.
Our next speaker is Jerry Ford. Our next speaker is Cedric D. Thompson. Our next speaker is Jen Williams.
Okay, my name is Jen Williams, and I am speaking on behalf of the Cy-Fair Civic Alliance. I'm going to speak about something a little bit different tonight. The majority of CFISD teachers have one 50-minute conference period per day to get all of their work done during contract hours. Daily tasks include, but are certainly not limited to, lesson planning, materials prep, grading, parent contact, paperwork, emails, troubleshooting technology, and attending required meetings. Many of them are attending required meetings. That 50 minutes might also be a teacher's only opportunity other than their 30-minute lunch to use the restroom, have a snack, go outdoors, breathe fresh air, ask a colleague a question, or possibly run a quick errand. As a result, many teachers work well beyond their contract time without pay to make sure their students have at least their minimum learning needs met. This was already unsustainable before COVID. Since the fall of 2020, our teachers have given up countless conference periods to cover absent colleagues' classes. On many days, there simply are not enough subs to go around. Parents, if you'd be willing to join our sub pool, we need you. Community, district leaders, and trustees, it's time to pay teachers for their time when they step in and cover for their colleagues. Other districts, such as Klein ISD, already do this. Let's show our hardworking teachers that we appreciate their going the extra mile and sacrificing their conference periods. Let's show them we respect their time. Teachers deserve supplemental pay for covering one another's classes. To all educators and support staff digging deep right now to show up for your students, we see you, we appreciate you, we are advocating for you. Thank you so much.
Our last speaker for this portion of the agenda is Jill Milkovich.
Good evening, and my apologies for maybe perhaps a topic that is a little less trivial than the topics that have been discussed tonight. But while I have your attention, ladies and gentlemen, the Texas Education Agency has created 2 off-campus PE programs. Category 1 provides a student in an Olympic caliber sport 15 hours a week, missing 1 class per day. Category 2 offers this same opportunity with a student participating 5 hours a week without missing a class period. Currently, Cy-Fair ISD does not offer off-campus PE Category 2, although all of our neighboring districts offer both Cat 1 and Cat 2 programs. Over the past year, I have been in contact with off-campus PE office and the district to better understand why Cy-Fair ISD does not offer off-campus PE Cat 2. I recently received an update from the district and was surprised to learn that Cy-Fair ISD will not offer off-campus PE Cat 2 to its students since it is not, quote, closely aligned with the training time requirements for NCs and UIL sports, close quote. The TEA chose to create an off-campus PE program, and it is not to be compared to UIL. These are separate programs developed for specific purposes to serve all students within this state and make opportunities available to all. How can all of our neighboring districts offer both off-campus PE Cat 1 and Cat 2 to their students? They can do so because the TEA has developed these programs with flexibility in mind. Each district has the ability to tailor off-campus PE to fit the needs of their students. I urge you to consider this option and, like our neighboring districts, make this opportunity available to all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
The board will hold a public hearing to discuss the 2020-2021 Texas Academic Performance Report. Presenters are Dr. Linda Macias and Dr. Ashley Claiborne.
Good evening, President Jackson, board members, and Dr. Henry. This evening, we will be sharing, as required by law, the 2020-2021 Texas Academic Performance Report, known as the TAPER. The bulk of the data we will be sharing with you this evening, you have already seen. We presented the STAR data to you in the fall. You may recall that. The learning loss and gaps we shared with you in the fall are represented in this report. You have heard me share that the 2020-2021 data is incomplete data. All of our students did not test. And we heard from many schools that many of the students really did not take the test as serious as they did before the COVID pandemic. Nonetheless, it is the data that we have, and we will move forward from here. Dr. Claiborne will continue with the remainder of the presentation.
Texas Education Code requires Board of Trustees an annual report that includes the district accreditation status, Texas Academic Performance Report, campus performance objectives, information received from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, and a report of violent or criminal incidents. We'll begin tonight with the district accreditation status. Cy-Fair was an accredited district in the 1920 school year. In a To the Administrator Address letter dated March 4th, 2021, the Texas Education Agency notified districts that they were suspending the assignment of accreditation statuses until the 2021-22 school year due to the following: the governor waiving STAR in 2020, school closures due to COVID-19, and the fact that all districts and campuses were labeled not rated, declared state of disaster. Next, we will move into a discussion of data items from the Texas Academic Performance Report, also known as TAPER. The TAPER is available to the board and the public from the district website by following the path before you. Let's begin by reviewing two pieces of information on the front cover of the TAPER. As stated earlier, the current district rating is not rated, declared state of disaster due to COVID-19. Secondly, the district's 2021 special education determination status is meets requirements. This label represents an integrated determination level status based on evaluation of each local education agency's results-driven accountability indicators in the special education program area and 4 federally required elements. There are 4 possible levels: meets requirements, needs assistance, needs intervention, and needs substantial intervention. Cy-Fair is one of 3 surrounding districts, including Katy and Tomball, that earned the meets requirement status. Every 6 years, the Texas Education Agency completes a comprehensive desk review, sometimes referred to as an audit, of each district in the state. It's currently our turn, and we look forward to their feedback to enhance our services to special education students. Now we will look inside the document where we find a wealth of information, including data on STAR performance, STAR growth from the 2019 accountability system, STAR data disaggregated by bilingual education and English as a second language, STAR participation rates, attendance, graduation, and dropout rates, college career and military readiness, followed by student and staff data. Throughout the academic portion of the report, data are disaggregated based on state performance, Region 4 performance, district performance, otherwise known as the all-student group, ethnicity and race, special populations such as special education and emergent bilingual, enrollment status, and economic status. We review and study these data by demographic and student groups, because we're held accountable for student performance by student group in the student progress and closing the gaps domain of the state and federal accountability systems. Tonight, we will highlight specific data points in the taper that are directly related to Goal 1 objectives of the 2020-21 Board Monitoring System. Let's begin with Objective 2. Increase overall approaches, meets, and master's performance levels on STAR 3 through 8 and end-of-course exams. It will not come as a surprise to you that we have gaps in performance between 2021 and 2019. We shared STAR and end-of-course performance data with you during the Opportunity Gap Board presentation in November 2021. When comparing Cy-Fair to neighboring districts, you will see we all experience losses. You will also remember that approaches performance, the minimum passing standard, will always be higher than meets or master's performance, since those standards are set at a higher passing level. As we displayed in November, on September 3, 2021, the Texas Education Agency noted the following regarding comparing 2021 and 2019 data. While direct comparisons with STAR data from previous years may not be appropriate because of varying participation rates and shifts in instructional settings due to COVID-19, the data provide an important temperature check that allows Texas districts to track and address student recovery in the short and long term. This is exactly how we have used these data, to provide intervention and accelerated instruction for our students, as outlined in the November board presentation. An additional data point to note, which relates to Objectives 2 and 3, is the number and passing percent of our 8th grade students taking and passing the Algebra 1 exam. Last year, 43% of our 8th grade students took the Algebra 1 exam with a passing percentage of 98%. While these data are down slightly from 2019, we continue to have higher participation rates than the state, which when last reviewed were hovering in the mid-20s. Objective 3 states, close the achievement gap by increasing performance on STAR 3 through 8 and end-of-course exams in the economically disadvantaged student group. Once again, Cy-Fair and our surrounding school districts experience drops in the performance of this student group. While the board monitoring system does not have a specific objective focusing on STAR and EOC participation rates, we know that it's important to note these differences considering changes in performance. The drop in participation rates can be attributed to the way students attending school virtually were asked to test. The Texas Education Agency did not offer the STAR virtually for these students. They had to come to their home campus to take the assessment. Many students chose to stay home and continue with virtual learning on STAR or end-of-course testing days. Objective 5 denotes the following: increase graduation rate in all student groups. When we look at the 5 largest student groups in Cy-Fair, they all remain in the 90% graduation rate range, even though a few of them had drops below 1%. Objective 6 challenges the district to increase the number of industry certifications earned. While Cy-Fair dropped a little over 1.5%, we are still the area leader in percent of students earning an industry-based certification before graduation. The final board objective we will address tonight is focused on enrollment in advanced courses. Objective 7 states that we will increase the number of students enrolled and earning credit in advanced courses in the economically disadvantaged student group. This includes advanced placement and dual credit courses. As you can see, Cy-Fair has percentages well above the comparison districts, and we increased our percentage by 2.1% from the prior year. We attribute this growth to our strong partnership with Lone Star College. The final taper item we would like to share tonight is not specifically addressed in the board monitoring system, but is a big part of our state and federal accountability systems. For the class of 2019, College, Career, and Military Readiness, also known as CCMR, was determined based on students earning one of 11 possible indicators. For the class of 2020, students had to earn one of 9 possible indicators. Military readiness and the CTE coherent sequence indicators were removed by the state. When you reviewed the data points for this indicator, you were more than likely surprised to see such a difference between the 2 years. You may have even thought this was an apples-to-apples comparison. It wasn't. The true apples-to-apples comparison can be made once the military and CTE coherent sequence data are removed from the 2019 data set as displayed above. While we still have a drop due to COVID-19 related issues, we see that it's not as wide once we internally equated the calculations from one year to the next. Additionally, House Bill 773 from the 87th Texas Legislature requires the state to place an indicator back into the college and career and military readiness calculations to include students who successfully complete a program of study in career and technical education. This should be included in the 2023 accountability system. The next topic the state requires us to cover in this public hearing is campus performance objectives. In Cy-Fair, the campus performance objectives are included in the campus improvement plans and may be found by following the path on the screen. Upon reviewing the campus improvement plans, you will notice that each goal has several performance objectives. The strategies used to meet the performance objectives are evaluated 3 times a year. Additionally, Goal 1, Performance Objective 1, has a set of STAR or EOC specific targets for multiple student groups at the approaches, meets, and masters performance levels. Our next data set come from the Higher Education Coordinating Board and are also contained in the taper. Displayed before you now are college enrollment data for the class of 2017, 2018, and 2019. These were collected by the Higher Education Coordinating Board based on Cy-Fair graduates that they were able to track and their subsequent enrollment in 4-year, 2-year, or independent colleges and universities in Texas only. Our final set of data are taken from the district's annual report on violence and violence prevention. The Cy-Fair Independent School District's rate of infractions for 2020-21 was .0035, with a student population of 114,560. This statistic includes only data that are correlated to specific Texas Education Agency discipline action reason codes. Therefore, it does not include every infraction detailed in the Cypress-Fairbanks local code of conduct. This concludes our presentation for this evening, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
I'm going to start on the left. Mr. Scanlon, any questions? Ms. Blackshear, any questions?
Not at this time, Mr. Jackson.
Ms. Heineman, any questions?
No questions. Thank you very much, Dr. Claiborne, for the report. And there's so much good information in this report. I appreciate the documentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Henry, any questions?
No, but thank you very much for the report. Appreciate it.
Dr. Blassingame.
Likewise, no questions. The challenges are clear, but I think this is exactly the team to get it done.
Thank you.
Mr. Sarabia, any questions?
No questions, but excellent report as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sadly, you don't get off that easy. So a couple of observations. One, and I've already been through the numbers in detail, as you know. There was a special question I asked, and you gave us the answer, but it was never made public. And so even though we didn't have all the same students taking the test, participation rates, which makes comparisons difficult, we can still make a comparison between us and the state of Texas, and we can take a look at the delta
Correct.
between the time period that it was last held and the time period now. And so the law of large numbers says if we have enough students, we can still make those comparisons. So please tell us what the Delta report looks like.
Believe this or not, in this big old binder right here, I didn't bring what we provided to the board, but I have a feeling you may have it.
Well, as a matter of fact, I do. The short answer, because I'm not certain that the viewing audience wants to hear all the detail that I love to, it's a great nighttime reading, but it keeps me awake. The delta between us and the state, where we outperformed the state, actually went up during this COVID period. So our improvement enhanced. Even though we aren't happy with where our numbers are, the question has to be, where are we relative to everybody else? The commissioner for the state of Texas tells us we have to have exterior comparisons. And I look at that delta to see where we are. Our bottom line goal is we always have to do better than the state average. That's our minimum level of expectation. But by looking at the delta, it tells us what good job we're doing. And I want to say thank you to our teachers, our campus leadership. This has been a very hard 2 years. We have really beaten our staff up. But our students have performed. They have outperformed their peers across the state. A second comment, and I brought this up, and Natalie, only you can appreciate this. I probably spent 3 hours looking at the team's report that for my rookie year, and I discovered what we were doing in algebra, which defies everything we know about teaching. You looked up the numbers, but our participation rate for algebra is more than double the state average. But more than that, the passing rate, we all know, Natalie will tell you this, as you have a greater participation, your numbers drop. Happens across the board. SAT, ACT, I don't care what type of standardized test. But in our case, our numbers actually were better than the state number. Those are kudos, obviously, to what Mary J. did, her staff, but it's the foundation that we have at elementary school that leads to the students being able to move ahead in algebra. And Dr. Blassingame reminds us about reading at grade level 3, going to prison, but we are reminded that there are 2 classes that our students must take that lead to success in life, and one of those happens to be Algebra 1. It teaches the brain to think differently. So I just want to say thank you to the teachers, campus administrators, senior leadership. Many a time you've had to virtually empty the ISC building to send people out to the schools to cover classrooms, which says that for you to do your job, you come back in the evenings, you put in the weekend work, and even though this is School Appreciation Month, this is really the month we get to say, most of all, thank you to y'all.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
By all means.
Thank you.
Mr. Jackson.
And now we move to the consensus action items on the agenda. For the audience here and for the audience still viewing this at home, we took a hard look at the non-consensus items on Monday. That's the work session. The board then decided some of these we want to move to the consent agenda, some we don't. So the process is we'll go through everything on the consent agenda. We will then ask any board member, do you want to pull any of these off? For those remaining on the consent agenda, we'll entertain a motion and then a motion to second. We open the floor for further discussion, and then we vote. And I'm going to turn to my vice president to start on item 9 using the script that you have in front of you and take us through what's on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President. We will now proceed with the consensus action items portion of the agenda. 9, action items consensus. The board will consider approving the minutes of the December 9th, 2021 board work session. 9B, the board will consider approving the minutes of the December 13th, 2021 regular board meeting. The following non-consensus action items were moved to consensus during the board work session on Monday, January 10th, 2022. Item 10B, the board will consider approving the calendar committee's recommendation for the 2022-2023 instructional calendar. 10C, the board will consider approving a memorandum of understanding for 2 of the district's university partners, Grand Canyon University and Houston Baptist University. 10D, the board will consider approving the granting of water line and temporary construction easements, parcel 31E-9, to the North Harris County Regional Water Authority located at Millsap Elementary School, and authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate the final terms and execute all related documents. 10E, the board will consider approving the granting of water line and temporary construction easements, parcel 31A-13, to the North Harris County Regional Water Authority located at Campbell Middle School, Old Winfern High School, and authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate the final terms and execute all related documents. 10F, the board will consider approving the granting of water line, temporary construction, and access easements, parcel 31A-12, to the North Harris County Regional Water Authority located at the Natatorium and Pridgeon Stadium, and authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate the final terms and execute all related documents. 10G, the board will consider approving the granting of water line and temporary construction easements, parcel 31A-11, to the North Harris County Regional Water Authority located at ALC, Winfern Administration Annex, and Falcon Annex, and authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate the final terms and execute all related documents. 10H, the board will consider approving the granting of water line and temporary construction easements, parcel 31A-4, to the North Harris County Regional Water Authority located at the Maintenance Center, and authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate the final terms and execute all related documents. 10I, the board will consider awarding bids and contracts and/or authorizing purchase orders as recommended in the posted agenda item. 10I1, drill team competition drapes and hardware. 10I2, departmental vehicles, police. 10J, the board will consider approving construction proposals and contracts paid from bond funds to the recommended contractors, and authorize the superintendent or designee to execute all related documents related to such contracts as follows. If any board member wishes to remove one or more of these items for further discussion, please do so at this time. If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the consensus items as recommended or amended.
And I'll take the microphone back at that point.
Sir.
Thank you, Vice President. So, first question. Does anybody want to take any of these items off and put it aside? Looking to the left, looking to the right, it all stays on the consent agenda. I will now entertain a motion to approve.
A motion.
And your motion, sir?
To approve.
So your motion is to approve everything on the consent agenda. A motion has been made. Is there a second? Second. A motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. The motion carries. Item 10A, this has been tabled until next month. Any trustee interested in TASB position should contact me. I've had 2 trustees contact me regarding interest. If anybody else has an interest, please contact me to let me know. I then turn the information over to council. But part of the reason to contact me is I'm willing to sit down or just talk to you on the phone to sketch out kind of the big picture of TASB, but also to let you know what my time on TASB was like. As long as we're on this topic, grassroots TASB is now open. Has anybody on the board decided to go to the grassroots meeting? You have to register. It's no big deal.
Mr. President, I have registered for
Okay, so we have one and plan to do so. Excellent. Grassroots is fun. It really is. I don't know how it's going to happen during COVID, but you do get to meet with other trustees in the Gulf Coast area, and many concerns are similar, but then every district has its own story, and every district is a little bit different. But it's good to visit with other trustees. I don't remember what the deadline is, but I think we have some time to sign up for that. 10K, the board will consider approving the 2021-2022 School Health Advisory Council SHAC membership. This was moved to non-consent because we had certain board members who wanted to have the opportunity to go ahead and nominate individuals to serve on this committee. And to the board members who expressed that interest, were you able to take care of that?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so good. I will now entertain a motion for this item, and let me stop. For our new board members, do you know where to find the motion?
Mr. President, I do have a question about this agenda item.
So before we open it up for discussion, we have to have a motion,
Yep.
then we second, and then once a
have
motion is on the floor with a second, we can open it for discussion.
Excellent.
So, Mr.
Mr.
Henry.
Jackson,
Yes, Ms. Blackshear.
I would like to move the board approve the 2021-2022 School Health Advisory Council membership as presented, and ask the administration to fill vacancies as they occur.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Motion's been made. Is there a second? Second. Motion's been made and seconded. The floor is open for discussion. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President, I do have a question about the membership list.
Please continue.
Could I ask, is the Director of Health Services here? Thank you, Ms. Gordon. Ms. Gordon, I just wanted to confirm the process of nominating or selecting volunteers to participate in the Student Health Advisory Council. You sent out a letter to us that we received on December 10th. Your letter was dated December 9th. We received it December 10th, and you requested that board members provide nominees to the Student Health Advisory Council by January 7th. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And looking at the list of council members, it has changed drastically from that deadline to what I see is now put in place, and I have some questions about that. Okay. I did respond to that request. In my list of nominees that I submitted, I focused on geographical representation, specifically the areas of vacancies. That's where you were asking for help filling vacancies. So not looking for duplications or more members than is recommended by the Texas Department of State Health Services, which you shared with us on Monday. The maximum is, or the suggested number is 20, if I remember correctly.
Right.
And I saw that on the website for the Texas Department of State Health Services. And looking at the new list after our work session on Monday, I see that there are some areas where there are now, instead of one parent representative, there's two, so there's a duplication there, which does not fulfill the need for additional geographical representation. I see that one board member has nominated the wife of another board member, and then another board member nominated another wife of a board member. I question that because in the recommendations from the Texas Department of State Health Services, when it talks about SHAC should represent your community's geographic area, economic, social, religious, and ethnic makeup, philosophies, constituencies, and overall cultural feel, and make sure that appropriate segments of the community are represented. I'm questioning that we're doubling up on some areas, perhaps needlessly. Criteria for who are members of SHACs says knowledge of community profile, especially different community segments, professional ability, representative of the population, and credible membership. I question nominating each other's wives for several of those areas of criteria. 3 methods for selecting SHAC members are recruitment, appointment, and volunteer. I understand that the board has a responsibility to appoint members, but I also feel that we have a responsibility to ensure that we're following the criteria as suggested by the Texas Department of State Health Services and to best serve the students in our district. For the members that I nominated, I did not include any family members of myself or other board members. I included a parent that was in an area of vacancy, specifically for Horn Elementary. I included for the community members a financial planner, a member of the Cypher Fire Department, and a human resource executive. I ensured that no one geographical area was overrepresented to the detriment of others, and I made sure that we maintained the limit or the suggested number of 20 members. For this reason, I feel that I am not comfortable with approving the current membership as it is listed.
Questions or comments? I'm very proud of the people that I nominated to the SHAC committee. All come with qualifications and experience and background in the health field. Council, I'd like to ask a question. Is there anything other than B? I can pull it up here. I can't see the B. Is there any other policy other than BDF legal? In other words, is there any regulation or other policy that governs this area? I could only find one in my search on policy.
The legal policy reflects what's in statute. And
Right,
so-
but there is no local regulation or any other policy layer that guides us, yes. So I think we're fully within the, yes, we're fully within the policy. The policy basically says the board will appoint. And we, unfortunately, being new to the board, we did not have email access, even though the team did an amazing job. The password issue, for me, I could not access my email. I did not contact people over the break because I believe educators need their winter break. And so we worked to get access, and when I got access was after the date that was stated. However, policy does not in any which way dictate the process or the dates by which it would happen. So I think we're clearly within policy to make nominations, and I think that that is fair as new members of the board to have the opportunity to nominate. So I just want to clarify, there is nothing about the policy here that is broken by us nominating. Is that accurate, council?
I was confirming there wasn't anything in, is it EHBAF? I think it's redundant. I just wanted to make sure I was being exactly clear. But there's nothing in the process that we've described that, to my knowledge, is contrary to our policies. And I was just going to make sure I was accurately saying there might be a little something about the SHAC in EHBAF, and that's what I was going to.
Okay, yeah, and I can't pull up policy on here.
Yeah,
I can't find where it is, so I was trying to pull that up. Okay, so so we know we're okay with policy, and you're double checking in case there's something wrong. I was not also, the first time I saw any names, I was operating off of a vacancy list is when I could first access it, and then suddenly at the meeting the last time, just on Monday night, we saw that there were names populated there. And so I was operating already, before that, talking to people I know that I've seen as shining examples in our community of volunteerism and that have an active interest in health. and that represent the community's values. And so that process had already been begun before one board member filled the rest of the vacancies. So I feel like those redundancies are legal, therefore they should be fair. I would never want people you've asked or have volunteered to serve, any of us have asked to serve and have accepted that assignment to be asked to leave, and I've done that with some others as well. And to the point, I did nominate one spouse. That's because that person is a healthcare professional, certified in health coaching, certified in health training, and also when we had an issue that arose this year concerning health policy, we had a situation where the stated policy around sex ed for for fourth graders in a neighborhood school, there was some confusion about what was allowed and what wasn't, and thank you to the administration, we all clarified that the person that everyone went to in that community was the spouse of a sitting board member, Bethany Scanlon. She has a health background, and she was also a voice in the community that was the people turned to, and so I think that's a very valid argument. The other is someone I've known as a volunteer and a VIP at Aragon Middle School and at Langham Creek, has 3 students in that feeder pattern. She is someone who has a very keen and important interest in students with food sensitivities and food allergies, which is part of the scope of the SHAC. And then a community member who works actively, who has a health background in this community, retired from the Cypher Hospital HCA, and also is a child trafficking, someone who's a community activist that looks at sex trafficking, which is something that is clearly an issue that has to be addressed in the Houston area. It's something that falls in the health area, and so I think these are very valid nominations to the SHAC committee, and I stand by my nominations. Thank you.
If I may, please, I just want to also confirm that this document, the bulletin that was sent out on December 10th, was also sent to our personal emails, not our CFISD emails. They were sent by Holly. And you didn't have to respond over the break. The request was received December 10th. That was before we went on break. What I did not also share, but you have shared the qualifications of your nominees. 2 of them were very active campaign members of your campaign as well.
I just talked about my nominees.
Thank you.
I think it's important that people who reflect our community values and are passionate enough to fight for our community values are people who have a voice. There are many, many voices here, and I think that's a fair appointment.
Permission to comment?
Certainly.
So further, in our last board meeting, I want to confirm, my understanding was that as we spoke with Ms. Bevan and President, that we agreed that it would be permissible for the board members to submit nominations. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
That's my understanding as well. And so that is the reason that we provided the recommendations. Regarding the nominations that I made, they were active community members. They represent a voice in the community, and they've demonstrated over time passion regarding areas of sex trafficking and preventing of issues among our children, and they're volunteers in our community. So I think that the nominations that I've put forth are valid.
Questions, comments?
I was just going to confirm, Dr. Blassingay, it was EHAA that I was thinking about, and that's just the curriculum piece. So I'm going to stand by affirming what you said, that BDF legal is where we have the SHAC composition. That's correct.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes, Ms. Blackshear.
I would just like to comment that since Mr. Scanlon and Mr. Henry's wife's names are on that list, I would suggest that they abstain from voting.
I'd like to clarify, I believe that the SHAC committee just makes recommendations to the board. Is that accurate? And the board votes on it?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? So we have a motion on the floor that's been seconded. There is no further discussion. A question regarding conflict of interest has been raised, so I will ask the 2 board members who have relatives serving on the committee, do you plan to vote or do you plan to abstain? I'll look to my right first, Mr. Henry.
I would ask council For a legal opinion on this, please.
I don't typically give legal advice in open session, but I will, no,
Whatever it is.
No, I
Apologize,
know,
Marty.
I was being silly.
It's kind of late, I apologize.
No, you're good, you're good. I didn't mean that toward
I know
you. I
you
was
are.
just saying me.
You can be funny.
So there's, I know everybody's settling down because when Marnie takes a deep breath and says, so there's a couple of times in either the local government code, and I think the government code, when you're required to abstain. One of those is if you have an interest, and I may, like, for interest, financial interest, for instance, sometimes Mr. Jackson has had to abstain when we, one of the financial companies that we use simply because of a stock that he holds. Other times is if you are, if you have a familial relationship, but that, I have to be honest with you, I need to just look to confirm. Many times board members will abstain because they don't want the appearance of, and so it's sort of a, do I have to, or am I going to, for transparency purposes? As far as do you have to, because the shack is not, it's not a vendor. I don't know that there is a requirement. I think what Ms. Blackshear may have been suggesting was just from a, like a best practices. That was her recommendation. If you all would give me just a second, I will.
Can I make a recommendation instead as an alternative? May I remove my wife's name and then I'll be able to vote and move on from there? Would that be acceptable to the board?
Well, the person who made the nomination.
If that's your wish, Scott, I so remove her name.
So we have a motion on the floor and a second. Marty.
Mr. Jackson?
Well, just a second, Ms. Blackshear.
Okay.
Marty, I know how to handle this using Robert's Rules of Order. I mean, I know what we have to do. Do we have to go through with all of that?
No, we follow, as you know, as a small, what's it called? A small, not quorum, a small organization. We use the modified version of Robert's Rules of Order, so you can do friendly amendments, and if the maker of the motion is in agreement, or if it's generally I think the chair looks and there's consensus, then you can do a friendly amendment without having to vote on the amendments, et cetera.
So what we're talking about is we have to amend the list, right? And if we're in agreement that we can amend the list, that the list has been amended? Okay.
May I speak, Mr. Jackson?
So almost. We're almost there. So with the exception of Debbie Blackshear, who I could not see nod her head, there is agreement among a majority of the board that we can amend the list to remove one name. So that amendment to the motion has now been made and recognized. Yes, Ms. Blackshear.
I did not make that amendment.
No, I understand. However, between Mr. Henry and Mr. Scanlon, they amended the list. So a name was removed from the list. So now we have a new list. That is the amended list. And so the motion is still on the floor as to whether or not we go ahead and approve. But Mr. Henry no longer has a conflict of interest, either in fact or in appearance. But we're still open for further discussion.
Still like to speak before we vote.
Yes, ma'am. The floor is yours.
Okay. What I've been trying to tell you, my intent was not to remove their wives' names from the list. My intent was, as Marnie stated, for transparency purposes and for best practices. I felt that it would be a good idea for them to abstain from voting, but my intent was never to remove their names from the list. I just want to make that clear.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Blackshear.
I was trying to also be amenable to the entire board as well, just so you know, on my motion. Trying to be helpful for everyone. Be a team player.
Very good, and try and move it along. I got it.
Exactly.
I got it.
And,
to help.
Mr. President, my comment is that I'm happy to abstain from voting.
Very good. Okay. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for an approval of the 2021-2022 School Health Advisory Council SHAC membership as amended. All in favor, please raise your right hand. We have 3 in favor, all opposed. Oh, Debbie? Is your hand up or not?
I vote yes.
Okay. Motion carries. I will ask for all those opposed by the same sign, raise your right hand. 1 opposed. 2 opposed. Motion carries. And now we will proceed, finally, superintendent's briefing portion of the agenda.
Thank you, and the way I think I have it added up, that's 8 hours and 24 minutes later, if you count Monday and tonight. I get to finish this up. We will honor our school counselors the week of February 7th to 11th for National School Counseling Week. National School Counseling Week highlights the tremendous impact school counselors can have in helping students achieve school success and plan for a career. The 28th annual Cy-Fair ISD Livestock Show and Sale will be held February 1st through 5th at the CFISD Exhibit Center at 11206 Telge Road. In addition to in-person spectators, we will be live streaming the judging and the sales so you can support CFISD FFA students from home. The on-site freezer sale and silent auction will be at 9 a.m. on Saturday, February 5th, followed by the buyer's luncheon at Arnold Middle School at 11 a.m. And the auction, the live auction, at 1 p.m. back at the Exhibit Center. You can always go to the district website to view more information. January is designated as National Mentoring Month. Mentoring can make such a difference in the lives of students struggling with academics, personal issues, and staying in school. We would like to thank all of our CFISD mentors for making such a difference in the lives of our students. If you are interested in becoming a mentor, please contact the CFISD Community Engagement Office. The CFISD dance show-offs are scheduled for Thursday, January 27th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Berry Center. See some of the top dance talent throughout the district, including the all-district dance team. Tickets are $10 per person at the door, and I can tell you that's a great show. A reminder that tomorrow, January 14th, will be a teacher workday and student holiday. All schools and facilities will be closed on Monday, January 17th, in observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. And Mr. President, I know we've been here a long time, but I just want 3 minutes to make some personal comments. As many of you know, probably all of you know, I came to this district nearly 11 years ago as superintendent. And when I came to this district 11 years ago, I had 3 adult children, 21-year-old, a 25-year-old, and a 26-year-old. In that 11 years, I now have a little less than 11 years. I have a 31-year-old, I have a 35-year-old, and a 36-year-old. And not only do I have those children, I've got 3 in-laws now, and I've got 7 grandchildren in that 10 and a half years, but my family is really unique, and some of you know this story, and I do have a point. I have 2 grandchildren that are half Hispanic and half Asian. I have 2 grandchildren that are half Asian and half Caucasian. I have 1 grandchild that is half Caucasian and half African American. I have 1 grandson, my prince, who is actually 3 years old, and he's the product of my daughter who is a member of the LGBTQ community. So I have a true modern family. And I may be missing one. I don't know. And you know, I'll be in trouble. But I can tell you, and the point I'm trying to make is 10 and a half years ago, I never dreamed my family would look like my family looks. That was not what, I grew up in a small town in East Texas. That's not what I thought my family would look like. But my family turned out just like it was supposed to. I have a little bit of everything in my family, and I love them all. And I got my half Caucasian, half African American granddaughter. When she was in school, she saw someone that looked like her, and that made a difference in her life. And so it does make a difference when kids see others that look like they do. And my little prince, my 3-year-old, that's part, a child of my daughter, he needs to see people that look like his moms. It's important. And I say all that to say we're all talking, but we're not listening. We're really saying the same things. We want the best teachers we can get in this community, but we want them to be diverse. And the way you you come up with a diverse workforce is you go look different places than you've ever looked before. You go to Prairie View A&M. You go to Texas Southern. You go to the Valley. You go to places where there are people that are the best, and they can come back here and give us that diversity we want, and they can be the best like other people want. So that can happen. And then I'm going to finish my thoughts with this. Mr. Jackson makes it very clear that the board is the policy arm of the school district, and the superintendent is in charge of running the day-to-day operations of the district. When any of the people that I'm responsible for hurt, I hurt. And to our African American employees, I'm so sorry that you've hurt the last few days, and I apologize that you've hurt. And I'll do my best to make sure that that does not occur again. Thank you.
Well done.
I'm not blaming you back for anything. I'm sorry. I'm not against anybody.
I know you're not. I know you're not.
We are now adjourned. Thank you. Who turned that off?